The world is controlled by three types of people: those who are talented, those who have the superpower of money, and a very special third type. But before the story reveals what type that is, we jump to a streaming session, where a mage is casting his spells, receiving support from his team as they struggle. The magic stone on his staff is glowing more and more intensely. That is the Avis Guild, and the viewers say they are very powerful, but that dragon wouldn't be easy to defeat. The attack combination of those players was truly impressive. A little further away from them is a figure well known to those watching. It's Lee Seol. She delicately opens her arms, activating the divine roulette. She did this while singing a song. Immediately, the effects of her powers became evident, and a large pair of wings appeared on her back. A random skill would be summoned, and some of the viewers were hoping it would be something funny so they could be entertained a bit more. But the players involved in that fight were hoping it would be something very useful, because the dragon had not yet been defeated, and it was already running out of patience to tolerate those players much longer. And returning to the statement at the beginning of the story, we have the third type of person capable of rule in the world. Those who are extremely lucky. The girl summoned the herald of the goddess of victory, wielding a huge spear. She turned the dragon into a simple lizard. Her audience said she was really very lucky, but there was still one dragon head breathing calmly, and it didn't take long for her to start being attacked by the remaining players. The viewers noticed that the guild leader, whose name is Merlin, began casting something to support his allies. A blonde-haired man was already prepared to execute a big move, and a huge magic circle appeared in front of him. Because of his appearance, he is very popular among those who watch this kind of content. From that magic circle, he managed to summon a flaming dragon. In moving his staff, he gave a single order to the creature to attack and obliterate the enemy in front of it, firing at it with a singular and powerful strike. That was enough to destroy the last remaining head of the dragon. Where there was once a breathing head, now there was only its former location. The creature had been successfully subdued. The netizens watching realized that this team was the fastest to defeat this challenge, and all the players are celebrating the victory they achieved over the labyrinth dragon. Several of the viewers want to join this guild as well, some motivated by the achievements of this team, others because Lee Seol is beautiful. Knowing that the stream was already ending, they agreed it was very fun to watch. But that was just a recording being watched by someone. And the boy who finished watching this recording is using a very modern virtual immersion device. Sitting in a highly technological chair, he had a fully immersive experience. Later, we discover that the daily fee is 300 coins. We don't know if he's talking about dollars or the devalued Korean currency. He doesn't agree with this price since the survival rate of that challenge is 30%. The person on the other end of the call said he only does it he wants to. There are plenty of others interested, and the boy said he just wanted to be better paid. But the person is not able to pay more since the guild is not willing to increase the budget for this type of hiring. Ending the call, the boy is completely upset. A friend of Hyeon cautiously opened the door, asking if things were going well, and the boy realized he had spoken too loudly. Outside, he said he was going to have to work the entire month as cannon fodder, and his friend would really like to participate in a raid like that. Despite the large number of players, only a small percentage of them managed to make this a profession. He said that to encourage his friend because he has the talent to make money from it. But that's not how our protagonist is feeling. In fact, he is skilled at the game since he doesn't use a virtual aid that helps players aim. Because he played a lot of baseball in his childhood, he has a slight advantage compared to other players. Unfortunately, he was forced to abandon his sports career due to a shoulder injury, and he was already starting to gain maturity. Reflecting on this, he concluded that his friend doesn't know how talent can make someone feel pathetic. Leaving a card on the table, he thanked his friend, hoping he could level up a bit. But he doesn't know if he will be capable since the competition is very fierce. Our protagonist has been perfecting his virtual character for 5 years. He had invested a lot of money in the mage he created, something he doesn't intend to do ever again in his life. And for him, there was only one option left. He needs to protect his family at any cost. Talking to his friend, he found out that he was very entertained reading a novel about a protagonist who is betrayed and returns wanting revenge. He thought the story was weird, said goodbye to his friend, and went outside to go back home. But it was reading heavily, and without an umbrella, he would get completely soaked. Since there was no other option, he headed home anyway. Remembering the novel, he thought it was a huge waste of time to go back to the past just to get revenge. If that happened to him, he would buy bitcoins or anything else he knew would increase in value. What he didn't realize was that a car was approaching. The boy looks to the side with his peripheral vision. But, unfortunately, the truck from the iSky Transportation Company was already too close to him. That's when the boy realized that something very bad could happen. A huge impact occurred shortly after. The small truck had overturned and the hesitant feet of the protagonist were planted on the ground, having witnessed all that left him in shock. But it wasn't this time that the ice guy happened. Some bystanders gathered at the scene to better understand what had happened. Still very terrified, our protagonist's blood pressure was dangerously low. Some people were thinking about the driver's safety and asked someone to call emergency services. While the boy reflected on his bad luck, a live wire came loose from a utility pole. As soon as he stood up, part of the pole fell exactly where he was and the electrified cable started bouncing through the air. Considering that everything was wet because of the rain and that water is an excellent conductor, the truck's mission was accomplished. Lying on the ground, the protagonist was thinking that his life was really very miserable. And even so, he managed to reach an interesting conclusion that day. That was his lucky day because despite being electrocuted, the boy was still alive. In the year 2034, a virtual reality game emerged and became a huge sensation. Its name was War of the Gods. In just a few years, it had a huge impact on sports, entertainment, and culture, reaching an incredible number of almost 2 billion users. The game became so big that some players managed to monetize their gaming experience. Siam is calling for Hyeon, asking him to wake up quickly. The boy opens his eyes not knowing where he is, and the man who woke him up is relieved that he is conscious. Our protagonist wakes up very frightened and the doctor immediately switches to loan shark mode. Now that he's fine, he can pay the treatment bill. While going back home, he started to think that his luck isn't that good after all. He ended up having to spend money he didn't have to cover the hospital treatment he received, a truly regrettable outcome. But he tried to be grateful because his body is still functional and it's the only thing he has in this crappy world. He hoped his family is doing well. But when he got home, he couldn't open the door through the biometric access. For a moment, he was puzzled by what was happening. The day before, it was working normally, but now the door refused to open. Revolting against this situation, he said he would move to a different rental as soon as he saved some money until the door was opened from the inside. A child happily greeted him. It was his niece. That friendly greeting quickly changed our protagonist's mood, who was now very happy to see that child. He asked how her father was and the man said he was also there. This is the protagonist's older brother. His name is Hyeonwoo, and he needs to use a wheelchair. He said he heard that our protagonist had been in the hospital, asked if everything was okay with him, and the boy said he had just slipped on the floor. Brother was concerned about this explanation, but our protagonist reassured him, saying that if it was something serious, he would still be hospitalized. He said the lock might be broken since it didn't open with his identification. Even though the house was very old, that system is very resistant to malfunctions. Since it uses the same system as the capsules in the game War of the Gods, this sentence made our protagonist very worried. Various thoughts came to his mind considering what could have happened to him. Imagining that he wouldn't be able to log into the game, he said he needed to find an access capsule immediately. Arriving at the place, he said that he had entered all his information correctly, but his biometric data was wrong. All of his dialogue happens over the phone, and the support person said that he might be getting hacked. The suggestion for the boy's problem was complex. He would need to hire a lawyer to solve it since biometric data is personal and non-transferable. Being the sacred way to prove a person's identity, not even our protagonist believes the problem that is happening. He doesn't understand why his biometrics aren't working, and he started to remember what happened during the rain. His body was struck by a massive electric shock because of that accident. For a moment, he started thinking that this could be related to what was happening, and now he can't enter the game in any way. Thinking about everything he had done, he remembered that he had invested a lot of money in that character. Now everything had ended permanently. While his problems are still real, he still has a family to support. That's why he can't give up now, even though his difficulty is enormous. Abandoning that game is not a viable option. Since he's not going to give up on his dream of being a ranked player, he thought about starting to work in the game's mines, and he could earn money to pay all his monthly expenses. Because his biggest motivation is the family he needs to support, he decided that he would return to that capsule one more time to make money. He still had a character creation ticket, and now he would start from scratch once again. He never imagined that he would have to go through this experience again. The game's first message appears, asking if he wants to participate in the war between the gods. That experience is said to be better than real life. Our protagonist doesn't think it's that different. For those who don't have money, it's impossible to have a good start. His character's name would be Miners. It costs 880 coins to create a simple character, something that leaves our protagonist extremely outraged. Not to mention that all the items in this game are very expensive, and there are still people who want to live a comfortable virtual life, even if it costs a lot of money. While creating his character, he needs to decide which god will receive his devotion. It would be great, our protagonist thought, if things could be a little easier. Maybe he wouldn't be in as much trouble as he is now. He still hasn't been able to get over the loss of his character since he had invested a lot of money into it. Since he can't pay, his character's items will be selected randomly, only having a lot of money or a lot of luck to overcome that. The cards that appear in front of him were all useless, but he doesn't care anymore about his character's class since he's going to be a miner anyway. Before selecting a random card, his eye stumbled upon something unusual. A golden card different from all the others was there with the ARCHMAGE class. This left our protagonist quite intrigued. As he moved his hand closer to the card, he started thinking he must be hallucinating. A message appeared in front of him saying that the War Dragon had accepted him as his 80 follower and now he had acquired the ARCHMAGE class. After that, his body was materialized in another place with several other players. Midas is currently at level 1 and his class ranking is legendary. A ranked player who has the same class as him had to spend thousands of dollars to achieve that result. And our protagonist had the grace to achieve it through luck. Looking around, he saw that other players were disappointed with the classes they got. They also wanted to be ARCHMAGEs. One of them said that legendary classes are only achieved by those who have a lot of money. Our protagonist is a veteran player. He knows that those words carry truth. But now he would no longer be a miner. He needs to level up quickly and start doing quests. That was so unlikely to happen that our protagonist is thinking it might be a system error. He started the tutorial, thinking he would soon receive a common class like all Neota players who don't have money. He even had to wipe his own eyes because until then, everything was happening normally. In the tutorial message, it also sends secret information. He would receive an extra reward if he survived for 71 minutes. Receiving the title of Tutorial Master, a part of the game that none of the players care about. He's still trying to understand what he needs to do to survive 71 minutes. Being impressed by the reward, receiving 10 points for each of his attributes. That was absurd since he only gets 5 points for each level up. The desperate way he talked about it made other players look at him like he was a madman. He had known that game for several years, but he had never heard of the title of Tutorial Master. Definitely, what was happening to him inside that game was not a system error. He decided that he'll record his entire experience because this is absolutely necessary. In a game where money is so influential, insider information is worth a lot. He is praying to God that nothing in that experience is a dream, hoping that it is reality. Finally, all those players were sent to a very unusual place. There were several monsters waiting for them and they didn't know how they could defeat them until someone said that those creatures weren't there to be fought. Our protagonist realized that surviving for 71 minutes would not be an easy task. He saw that above the head of one of them, a green circle had appeared and slowly its color was changing to red, leaving our protagonist completely terrified. It was an indication that the creatures had selected a player as their target. The game had become so big that new players entered that world to chase their own dreams, but ended up facing the same thing. The gaming experience is very difficult, and it is in the tutorial that beginners receive a harsh lesson in reality. The first one had already been defeated by the creatures. This left the rest of the players quite terrified. They started to wonder if the tutorial would only end when they were beaten to death by the creatures since they couldn't defeat them. Our protagonist wasn't going to stay in that place waiting like a fish in a barrel, running away at full speed from the dangerous creatures, realizing that the abilities he had received are truly incredible since he could even see the status window of those creatures. After running a lot, he managed to hide behind a bush, seeing that the circle above their heads changed color again, turning green. Realizing that he might have understood how that system works. When the circle is green, it means that the creature is in a peaceful state with no intention to attack. He took advantage of the moment to gain even more distance from that dangerous place. But when the circle changes color to red, it signals that danger is imminent. Our protagonist positioned himself for battle. Since one of those huge creatures had set him as its target, it almost managed to grab the boy's head in a single movement. Luckily, he managed to escape. He has a lot of experience dodging those creatures, and that is proving to be very useful in this new experience as a beginner. A little more than 10 minutes had already passed since he entered the tutorial. With his previous experience in the game and being able to see the creature's aggression indicator, running away became easy. It seems he is the only player who had access to that privileged information and his recording is happening normally. Since there are only a few minutes left, he felt that his goal is close to being achieved. He still has an hour to stay in that place and he decided that he would earn the title of Tutorial Master. After an hour, he was already completely exhausted. Getting out of his capsule, he started thinking about what he had done. Definitely, no aspect of that experience was just in his head. Now he was going to watch the complete recording of the tutorial. He celebrated a lot upon completing that task because he managed to survive for 71 minutes in that place. Just as he was celebrating, his character was attacked by the monsters. But since the conditions had been met, he earned the title of Tutorial Master. He really is an ARCHMAGE. The game almost ejected him from the experience because his heart rate was extremely high. This is an automatic safety measure. Seeing that he was very breathless, his friend approached to check if everything was okay. Our protagonist could barely find the right words to say what happened. He said that he was quite upset for having to start from the beginning once again. His friend said that he has a very good Mage account and that it definitely shouldn't have been suspended. But seeing the state that the protagonist was in, he realized that the worst might have happened and he apologized for being insensitive. But the boy replied that it's already water under the bridge. He said he would return to playing, asking his friend not to tell anyone else what happened. That will be enough to keep his secret. He still doesn't want anyone to know what happened with his new character. If the developers find out about his ability, he imagines there will be consequences and he could be hunted inside the game. That may have been a result of his accident, but it is the only chance he has to change his family's life and he doesn't know how long that ability will last. Arriving at the starting village, he was determined that he would do all this again for his family. There are currently fewer than 100 players who have the same class as him. This is truly unbelievable. He needs to prioritize his development immediately. His first step is to go to the Explorers Guild. But looking at a tree that was there, he saw an unusual glow. Above it, there was a question mark, and our protagonist decided to get closer. Immediately surprised by what he was seeing. It was just a dog sleeping under that shade. Legendary quests are the highest paying quests that exist in that game, and that glow was definitely from a legendary quest, something he'd only heard about. Our protagonist remembered that he needed to control his anxiety since his heart rate couldn't rise too much. He needed to focus on the opportunity that appeared. Just by finding that quest, he wouldn't need to worry about any of his monthly expenses. That made him start to like that cursed game based on money and luck. Carefully approaching the dog, he still needed to confirm. The system said it was lost and needed a rare medicine, and he would gain the favor of an NPC. He had never seen this quest in his entire life. All the other players could find out about the dog was that it was lost and sick. If they hadn't been able to read hidden information, he would have ignored it like everyone else. He realized it was really lucky to have found it and wouldn't let this opportunity pass. But he needed to stop by the Explorers Guild, which manages the quests in that area. He doesn't want to get involved with those kinds of people, but at the moment, he has no other choice. Even though there are many quests in the game, they become rarer as the level increases. The NPCs have a limit on the number of quests they can give in a day, and players started selling these quests inside the game. That's how the Explorers Guild was born. Since there was a niche to be explored due to that situation, they established their headquarters in the starting village. Once a player leaves that place, they can't return, so there are no veterans there to exploit newcomers. At first, this guild showed a lot of solidarity with new players, gaining space over time. They helped beginners to improve their public image, and it ended up working. The developers decided not to intervene in in-game affairs until the Explorers Guild became an official institution, and they are the real reason why our protagonist didn't want to create an alternate account. Once inside that building, he started receiving the standard explanation. There were 3 services. The basic, where he would receive a quest, the intermediate, where he would also get an item, and the luxury, where he would be helped by another player. The service could be paid with in-game currency or even with items. That player couldn't wait to get the money from our protagonist, who decided to buy the basic option. Those who don't pay that guild end up having to work forcibly in the mines. Their influence was so big that it extended into the real world. Those who couldn't pay their debts had to give up their characters. They are true parasites. Our protagonist received a list of the quests with the locations he should head to. A man said that he had received the quest to complete Hayden's task. Our protagonist wants to confirm the information before starting, clicking his finger on that information. Immediately, the screen containing it rose into the sky. He never imagined there was that much information, but his task was already defined. He had found the legendary quest that appeared together with the lost dog. His goal is to keep everything a secret to avoid raising suspicion, deciding that he would start with the easier tasks. After defeating some creatures in the forest, he managed to level up. For him, it was very easy since his stats are high. The system said that the god he serves is watching his actions, giving him an opportunity. He could select a skill. This happens at certain levels, but he never got anything good. But he believes he's still on his lucky streak, hoping to get something very rare, except those cards didn't offer anything special. Everything he received was completely ordinary, but is relieved that the attack spell he used before had appeared. Now he can use fireballs for combat, properly prepared to advance. He started wondering whether he should do the secret quest. As soon as he approached that building, he spoke to the man who had helped him earlier. He asked if our protagonist had already finished, and the boy said yes. He said he seems pretty skilled, and our protagonist replied that he almost died trying to defeat a creature. The man started thinking that he was a mediocre player. He must be a complete beginner. He thought the boy probably bought the quest item somewhere. It's only a matter of time before he gets exploited by the people in that game. but he was surprised by the conversation he was having with another character who had a lot of goblin leather. The character started complimenting the boy's skill and asked him to fetch an even rarer item that those creatures possess. A new quest appeared and our protagonist said he bought 30 pieces of leather. He tried to use less than what the quest had asked for, but that character took everything he had. This made him really upset because he wanted to be compensated for the items he had lost. That other player was observing everything very closely, starting to think about several things regarding our protagonist. It didn't take long for him to notice he was being watched. Apologizing for what happened, he said he couldn't compensate for the lost items. As part of the contract, if the user doesn't have knowledge of all the information, he is responsible for the results. Our protagonist is very upset that he has to solve the problem by himself. He asked himself if everything he does in that quest is really his responsibility. Upon hearing that, he showed that he was quite outraged. He left there upset for having lost 20 pieces of leather, while the other player was relieved because he had escaped a big problem. However, everything is going according to his plan. Nothing will block his path. To get that next item, he really had to put in some effort. And taking it to the virtual character, he started thinking about the effort he had to make, finally managing to get the necessary item to heal a lost puppy, something that made him truly happy. Our protagonist ran to help that little creature so he could complete the legendary and secret quest. He put a little bit of the medicine in the palm of his hands, giving it to the puppy to drink, hoping to receive his skill card from that. His enthusiasm is so big that he imagines he'll get rich soon. The system said that the dog who had lost its own name will now serve him. Our player received the title of Master of a Divine Beast, words he was not expecting to read upon completing that quest. He was immediately saddened because he couldn't sell that creature, but the little dog was barking at him very happily. The boy started to wonder if that was a wolf pup. He no longer cared about the appearance of the creature, but hoped it had good abilities. The system said that he needs to name it. He looked at the small creature very focused and decided that its name would be Lucky. After being named, the system said that the creature received a new life with its new name. The glow from that blinded our protagonist's vision. He was getting more and more impressed with the things that were happening. The more the creature glowed, the faster his heart was beating, and the system noticed this. He would be forcibly disconnected. While walking outside, someone said that it had been a long time since they'd seen our protagonist. Another person said that he should greet people when he meets them, but our protagonist is way too exhausted. His friend said to leave him alone because he's been depressed since he lost his account. The other guy became very worried about that since he knows about the huge investment he had made in that game. The truth is that our protagonist is laughing like a happy fool because that wolf is a Fenrir, and now he's absolutely sure of it. He's the strongest divine creature in that game. There's nothing that can surpass it in close combat. As if his legendary class wasn't enough, he also managed to get powerful divine beast opportunities that won't happen again. While thinking about the possibilities, his phone started ringing. It was his niece who had called, and he said he was going to buy fried chicken for her. But he received a terrifying piece of news. Something had happened to his brother, so he rushed to the hospital as fast as he could. His niece was there alone looking at her father lying in a hospital bed. As soon as he arrived, he found the child crying desperately. Immediately, he picked her up in his arms, asking what happened, and a doctor asked if he was the child's guardian. She said that his brother's heart was weakened and his blood pressure had dropped too much. But the situation was not fatal. Since the patient has a pacemaker in his heart, he needs to replace it frequently and go through rehabilitation. And it had been a long time since the last time he went for medical checkups. That night, they had to stay in the hospital. Our protagonist was sitting in a chair while the child slept in his lap. Even while sleeping, it was possible to see the sad expression on her face. That situation was heartbreaking. Everything in this world revolves around money, which is also the root of all problems. He decided that he could no longer hesitate in that game because he needs to change his family's life, and he will take full advantage of this opportunity. In the beginner hunting field, several players are already gathered to gain experience. Seeing our protagonist creature, some are enchanted because the wolf is very cute. Some manage to identify it as a divine beast cub, and indeed, it looks like a very cute cub. After that legendary task, our protagonist managed to obtain two things. In the company of his beast, he doesn't need to form a party, having the freedom to play solo. He just needs to strengthen his character a bit more to be able to leave the starting village. The difficulty will increase greatly, as well as the rewards. He also received the skill card that the War Dragon sent. Opening a system, he said he would accept the reward. Immediately, several cards started to materialize in front of him. They were organizing themselves before him until they formed a large panel. Our protagonist even thought that it would be completely useless. But among those cards, there was one with a unique skill. He had received telekinesis, something extremely rare in that game, able to move objects through the air or in the case of battle, sabotage the enemy's movement. It is restricted to users of telekinetic magic, but his class can learn any type of magic. Things have been going very favorably for him since the beginning, imagining that Lucky's presence has made his life easier. Heading deeper into the forest, he decided he would continue hunting. Several monsters are already waiting for our protagonist. Some goblins had just hunted a small rabbit. One of the creatures heard strange noises and was immediately attacked by Lucky. The little creature proved to be truly formidable in battle. It didn't take long for it to take down the first of the monsters. The other two tried to attack the little wolf cub, and they were about to hit it with their weapons. But our protagonist is also capable of using fireballs, hitting one of the creatures directly in the face. He waits to see the result of his action, becoming quite excited with the result. Lucky also seems very happy to have contributed to that victory. Those monsters are no longer a challenge for them, but on his other account, it was quite difficult. This is being easier than expected, and our protagonist is thinking about going even deeper into the forest. Looking at the wolf cub, he started wondering if it understands basic commands or if it could be trained. Since those monsters were way too easy, they walked toward the darker parts of the forest. Several crows were perched on a tree. The birds suddenly took flight, leaving the boy very concerned. He knows this can only mean one thing. A boss creature would appear in that place. A system screen confirmed this news. There was less than an hour left until the goblin champion appears. In this type of challenge, it's possible to get great rewards compared to the traditional hunting method. The big problem is the difficulty. Only the best players can participate effectively. It's like a star in the sky. Everyone can see it, but only a few privileged ones can reach it. The rewards start with the items that are received, plus the broadcast of the game to others. It's truly astronomical. Our protagonist has a long road ahead. He wants to reach the level of a ranked player. He thought about sharing that information with the community and buying something delicious for his niece, but he became hesitant about passing that information along. Maybe he should take advantage of the opportunity alone. There is no one nearby, and he has already wiped out all the creatures in the area. Thinking about all these things, he still doesn't know what the best strategy is, and he needed to think very carefully because this decision is important. Realizing that being greedy in that situation could be beneficial. Sticking to safe paths might not bring the money he needs in the time he has, and he has a huge need to change his reality. He's already tired of depending on others. Much more determined, he decided he would do it himself. He had watched videos of that monster being defeated several times and was already familiar with its attack pattern. He had never tried anything like this alone, but now he has the dog as his companion. While waiting for the time to run out, he is confident that in Lucky's company, he will achieve victory. Together, they will defeat this creature. The two stayed there in the forest, and he had to dig a big hole. Finally, he had completed that small excavation, and the countdown had come to an end. The dangerous creature would soon appear. Our protagonist ordered Lucky to move to the rear. Heavy footsteps start to be heard in that place. The creature's eyes have a threatening glow, but our protagonist remains unwavering and determined. He carefully observes the monster had appeared. It doesn't take long for the creature to target him, furiously charging at him. Since he already knew its attack patterns, dodging it proved to be way too easy, and the creature's foot hit exactly where he was digging, causing it to immediately falling towards the bottom of that hole. With the creature inside, he threw a flask in its direction. It hit the top of the monster's head. As the liquid dripped down its mask, the creature tried to understand what was happening, and outside, our protagonist was preparing a fireball to hit, striking the creature right in the face. Its attack pattern varies according to its constitution, being a huge barrier for beginner players. Not even players with alternate accounts would attack that creature alone, but there is a way to bypass its attack pattern, making the fight much easier, and our protagonist didn't stop throwing fireballs. The creature is being brutally hit, practically being burned alive. Finally, one of its hands managed to reach the top. The monster managed to escape its temporary prison, but Lucky wasn't there just for show and started biting the creature's hand, making the monster fall once again into that hole. The creature's health was already seriously compromised, and this time it tries to climb out of the hole with great determination. Managing to throw itself upwards, our protagonist realized that the attack pattern had changed once again. He watches closely as the creature keeps gaining height. Moving one of its hands, it started aiming at our protagonist. But its attack was once again interrupted by Lucky, who managed to bite on the neck, throwing the goblin warrior to the ground. The creature was completely incapable of understanding what was happening. That player was too much of a challenge for it. And our protagonist calmly approaches it with a fireball in his hands. In the distance, it's possible to see the campfire he had caused with that attack. He'd received the title of Goblin Warrior Hunter from the system, getting very excited with this achievement. Hugging the puppy with great joy, they celebrated that big victory. but he recognized that this creature isn't as difficult as the ones outside. After winning, he realized it would have been great if that had been streamed. He could have made money and maybe even gotten a sponsorship. While thinking about what he could have done, he saw several system windows popping up around him. Now he has a lot to do, and the War Dragon gave him another opportunity to get cards. While he was looking at this, Lucky noticed something happening. The little creature started barking, and our protagonist saw a red glow in that place. Immediately becoming impressed by what he saw, the mask that the creature was wearing appeared in front of him. It's an item that can be sold for 1 million coins. Meanwhile, outside, he started thinking that the items obtained from defeating strong creatures are really expensive. He really liked to use it, but he needs to pay for his brother's hospital bills. If he weren't so desperate for money, things could have been a little different until he received a phone call. It was from the insurance company. They wanted to talk about compensation for the shock he had received. Those words left him completely paralyzed. He stood still for a moment. He said that ever since the accident, he's been anxious and traumatized and would like to talk about it at another time. Because he was going through a very difficult moment in his life, maybe that trauma will follow him forever. Placing his card on the table, he asked to deposit 300 credits into his account. The clerk found the amount strange and asked if our protagonist had gotten any valuable item. Then he'd remembered the call he made to the insurance company, where he was very convincing about the trauma he had gone through, managing to get compensation from them for what happened. He told the clerk what he had done, who was disappointed with this conduct. He knows that it wasn't the right thing to do, but he managed to get enough money to get through that month, allowing him to focus on his own growth, and time was crucial in the moment he was in. Once again, he went deep into the forest. The creatures were already prepared to receive him, but the fireballs were way too powerful. Those little creatures are being wiped out by a player who managed to climb onto a branch of one of the forest trees, staying out of his enemy's reach. He saw that this time they were protected with shields. Casting another spell in his hand, he revealed that he was anxious to see if they would be able to block this one, sending an ice arrow in their direction. It pierced the shield as if it were made of paper. It was so powerful that it resembled the shot of a firearm. While he was focused on hitting the creatures that were fleeing, he didn't notice that one of them was climbing the tree. The monster intended to attack him stuffily, launching its attack toward our protagonist's back, but it was intercepted midway by Lucky's fierce jaws, who managed to knock the creature off the tree, making our player feel very safe with his puppy protecting his back. After finishing off the monsters in that area, they headed to the next hunting ground, managing to obtain the goblin equipment set, which is rare and grants additional strength and magical power. Thanks to his constant hunts, he managed to collect several items, but none of them are unique items like the mask he had obtained. They also don't have any additional effects. Sometimes he just wished that a unique item would fall from the sky. While petting his dog, he started hearing some footsteps in the forest, which was soon followed by a desperate scream. A boy was approaching him desperately, asking someone to help him. Because he was about to be annihilated, a humanoid figure was about to strike him from behind. His weapon struck that player fatally, reducing his health points to 0. It was a group of players hunting another player. They were disappointed that he was defeated with a single blow. Mags are too weak. There was also a hostage accompanying that group who was very upset about what happened, saying he would report that behavior to his guild and that they wouldn't go unpunished. The biggest jerk in that group didn't believe those words. They didn't care about what they were doing, and because of the level restriction, he couldn't ask for help. They started beating him for no apparent reason. They kept harassing that player, telling him to quit the game because when he returned, he found himself in the same situation. This type of player stays in the starting village even after passing level 12 and only attacks inexperienced players. The worst kind of trash who enjoy taking advantage of the weak. This kind of person really irritates our protagonist. But fighting that group at his current level is a stupid decision. He called Lucky so they could get out of there. But the little dog is burning with rage, eager to take down those jerks with violence, and the boy realized what the dog wanted to do. This dude had already proven they were capable of defeating boss creatures, so he started wondering if it would be difficult to defeat those people since they don't seem to be any stronger than that monster. The small group of jerks left the forest, meeting up with other players. They looked at those people as potential victims, and they were very eager to continue committing atrocities. The bald guy decided he would attack whoever was closest, aiming his attack at a woman who had her back turned. But someone reacted quickly, casting a fireball, which was about to hit the bald face of that despicable player. The fire spread upon impact, leaving the girl frightened as she still didn't know what was happening. Faced with that unusual scene, the bald guy's friends became worried. They started intimidating the other players, asking who had done that. Our protagonist had hoped he would be a bit more resistant, saying that today's live stream would be the hunt for jerk players. He said he was honored to meet them, introducing himself as a streamer ARCHMAGE. One of them tried to hide his face, the smartest one said he needed to hide his username. Our protagonist was bluffing, but he knew this kind of person is terrified of being exposed. Since that fool had blocked his own vision, he was hit by an attack without noticing, being thrown several meters away from his original position. The remaining player realized that our protagonist was using more than one consumable, and there's only one class capable of doing that. And he started thinking that in front of him was the alternate character of a very rich person. Not willing to find out what he was capable of, he decided to flee from that situation. But our protagonist was motivated to teach him a small lesson. Lucky appeared to fulfill the secret desire of his heart to take down jerks through violence. The useless player was completely incapable of overcoming the strength of the little creature. Very weakened, he tried to recover while our protagonist approached him, asking if he was really a streamer ARCHMAGE. He said he would remember his username, but that threat didn't scare our protagonist, who told a jerk to go ahead and try, unleashing a very powerful attack against him. The system stated that the karma of those players was too low, which is calculated based on players' actions. And because of that score, our protagonist could collect more items than usual. For having finished off those filthy souls, he was quite pleased with what he had done. And because of his privileges, he's able to see absolutely everything they have. He began to focus on the valuable items. One of them had items that were able to work in harmony with the goblin mask he had obtained. In his current situation, there wasn't much to think about. He was going to use that combination. Little by little, the clothes he was wearing started to disappear. Now he possesses that unique set. All of his attributes increased by 25 points, and the damage dealt to goblins increases by 10%. Looking at his stats, he remembered that on previous character, he had just over 100 intelligence points at level 15. He has the same amount now, but is only level 9. Anyone would say that this must be a system error. Until Lucky started howling beside him, it was so loud that it startled our protagonist. He knows his companion is happy, but doesn't understand why the little creature started howling. Only then did he notice what the system was saying about him. The divine beast had gained a new power, and our protagonist needed to choose it. This opportunity left him impressed. Several cards appeared once again, and among them was a golden card. He was sure it must be something very interesting. Choosing that card, he discovered it was a legendary attribute. The puppy's wolf ears began to twitch, while his entire body emitted a very delicate golden glow. Treasure Hunter. Lucky now has the ability to identify hidden treasures, a blessing that our poor protagonist could never have imagined receiving. He started to think that this ability was directed at in-game items. But as he thought about it, other things came to mind. There's a man who is considered the luckiest in that game, the master of the Immortals Guild, who owns ephemera as a companion. He gained notoriety by finding hidden treasures. His luck was so great that people started seeing him as a scammer. Only now did our protagonist realize that there was truth behind that luck. After receiving this blessing, they started walking through the forest. He decided he would put Lucky's new ability to immediate use. The little wolf pup was quite enthusiastic about this new responsibility, walking very motivated through the forest. It didn't take long for them to find rare items, mushrooms, and medicinal herbs, high-level ingredients that can be sold for a good price. There were even plants that our player had never seen before. But the real treasure he possesses is his canine friend. The puppy suddenly stopped walking and started looking in a specific direction. Looking inside that hole, our protagonist began to wonder if there was something in there too. The two examined that opening a little more carefully, and the system said that it was the secret hideout of the goblin sorcerer. This made him realize that it was a hidden dungeon. For having said that out loud, he immediately covered his mouth, very worried. The system informed him that its level is unique. It can only be accessed by players up to level 12, and one of its rewards is 10 points in all attributes. He had never heard of anything like this in the starter village, and he learned from the system that he was the first to discover it. If he sold that information, he would get enough money to support his family for an entire month, but he doesn't want to do that. Faced with these possibilities, he started to feel very confused, and it was stressing him out. But Wolf Pup was unable to understand what his friend was feeling. But our protagonist cannot consider himself a true player if he sells that information. He is determined to completely clear that secret dungeon. Once inside, he found himself in a dark and damp place. In a large hall, several creatures were waiting for him. There was also a staff decorated with skulls of monsters from that forest. It belonged to the goblin sorcerer, a creature already at level 16. A purple mist hovered over the creatures. Hidden beneath it, a pair of determined eyes was approaching the first monster. A precise leap was executed. Lucky was attacking the first of his enemies, leaving all the others on high alert because they had been invaded. The wolf pup howled on top of the creature he had defeated, drawing the attention of his enemies. It didn't take long before fireballs started flying through the air, striking the faces of those poor creatures, which ended up making the goblin sorcerer extremely furious. Our protagonist entered the hall and his presence left the creatures terrified. He was recording the entire experience, telling his audience that he was about to clear the hidden dungeon of the starter village. Starting his attack, he ordered his canine friend to charge at the monsters, and it didn't take long for Lucky to bite yet another one of them. Our boy knows that the sorcerer's defense is low, but he uses powerful attacks to buy time. If he acts at the right moment, that creature won't be a challenge for him. So the boy started running toward the monster. Taking advantage of the time needed to cast its spell, he struck the sorcerer with a knife attack. He was very satisfied with the damage caused by that blow, realizing that the life of the strong is truly delightful. After executing it, he quickly backed away from the creature, because now he was going to use a powerful fire spell, managing to hit the sorcerer with his fireballs. The enemy's health was already at a critical level. Even so, the monster remained determined, furious at the actions of that player. Our protagonist realized that he had almost won, but since the creature was still alive, he needed to pay attention to the next attack pattern. And from what his eyes could see, the next spell being prepared was going to be powerful. The boy really wasn't alone in that dungeon. Little paws kept moving. Lucky bit the sorcerer's leg, causing him to lose concentration. And that made him stop casting the spell he was preparing, giving our protagonist enough time to react. The fire was already flying toward the creature, which was hit once again by the player's attacks. Its lifeless body fell onto the throne where it had rested its entire life. The system confirmed that the sorcerer had been defeated, leaving the pair of friends very happy. Our protagonist ran to the puppy to hug him, until a sinister voice started addressing him, calling for the human, and the boy looked back. He never imagined that the sorcerer was still alive. Furious, the creature said it had returned. And only now will the war of the gods begin. The sentence it spoke left the boy deeply intrigued. After that, the creature's body began to disappear as if Thanos had snapped his fingers. The way it disappeared was very strange. Our protagonist thought it must be a game bug. But he didn't care about that since he was anxious to find out what he would receive. He'd also recorded the entire experience and would make sure to sell it for a good price. While examining the items, Lucky got off his lap. The boy obtained the Goblin Sorcerer's Staff, a unique ranked item that is worth good money. You only need to be level 10 to use it, and its attack power is 31 points, making it a very interesting option for him right now. But there was one piece of information there that left him devastated. He couldn't sell it. That simple sentence had stolen all the joy from our protagonist's heart. He was so outraged that he thought about breaking it, recognizing that this game is a disgrace to humanity. A system window informed him about the creation of the main scenario, something the boy was ignoring, until he finally paid more attention to what he had read. The system had mentioned the main scenario, which made him so worried that he almost lost his underwear. Kim Minetsu is the brilliant mind who created the most perfect virtual reality world, the game War of the Gods. His motivation was only to create a story. He never even thought about making a profit. Eventually, he passed away, and people searched inside his game for the true purpose, the main scenario. And this was happening right before the protagonist's eyes. Very excited by the discovery, he started wondering if it was really true. Players had searched everywhere for this, and that information was hidden in the starter village. For a long time, players said it was just a bug, but the truth is that very few had searched in that place. If the starter village hadn't been turned into a miserable place by the Explorers Guild, this would certainly have been found earlier. Now our protagonist realized he needed to take advantage of this chance. He is not going to share this information with the community. He will try to do everything on his own, in the company of his faithful canine friends, since it was thanks to him that he found that place. The system said that he still hadn't used the opportunity yawned by the War Dragon, and the boy remembered he could pick some cards. He said he would do that quickly since he needed to focus on the main scenario. But his eyes were really bothered by the glow that appeared in front of him. A single golden card was floating. Polymorph ability. He can transform into a creature he has already hunted. It is an illusion. In the starter village, life goes on as normal. Our protagonist needs to talk to a character named to progress in his quest. His house is like a dungeon. Upon entering it, you are taken to another place. As soon as he passed through the door, the system informed him that he had entered Yung's house. It didn't take long for his canine companion to become alert, starting to bark. A person approached them, saying that they were way too noisy as guests. Jung introduced himself, asking if they had come there to lead the city and venture into the world. But our protagonist remained silent for a moment. He said that he had a question for him, asking if he knew anything about the Nameless God. Immediately, that character's bald head began to shine as if it were illuminated by the heavens until an exclamation mark appeared above him. Our protagonist realized that he had asked the right question. The bald man began to speak on the subject, saying it was related to those who were lost in the war of the gods and turned away from the throne. Beings who could no longer be called gods and were forgotten by the stories, but left their legacy hidden in that world. Looking at our protagonist, the bald man asked if he wished to know more about the traces of the Nameless God. Our protagonist could feel that he was getting closer and closer to the legends, responding that he was indeed interested in learning more about that story and where he could find the traces of the Nameless God. Removing a ring from his finger, the bald man said he had searched for this for a long time but was not able to reach the end. But maybe the young man in front of him could achieve a different result, handing him the ring. He said he should meet Sokolin in the city of Wigga. Just show her this ring and the woman will show him the way. And you wish the boy luck on his journey. The main scenario had finally begun. Those were all the pieces of information that the character could give to our protagonist. Then he asked if he was already prepared to leave the starter village. That made the boy very excited because he was finally ready to leave that place, so he said he was prepared. A magic circle appeared under his feet, making the little puppy very frightened. The bald man wished him success in his future battles, and a great bluish glow shone in the sky of that village. There is one thing that all users agree on: the game only truly begins when you leave that village. In a very large plaza, several players are appearing. Those newbies are happy because they managed to leave the starter village. Some are relieved that they don't have to pay the Explorers Guild. Around that plaza, there are several merchants and one of them is advertising his fruits. It resembles a real city and the players watch in awe at its structure. That is the city of Wigga. To get through the crowd, our protagonist keeps asking people to make way. Some people comment on this attitude, saying that our protagonist isn't paying attention to where he's walking. He was heading directly to the shady parts of the city. The ring he received from that bald man has legendary attributes that made him think that he would continue receiving unique items if he kept following the main scenario. Imagining the exorbitant amount of money he would make, he realized that this is truly an interesting scenario. The puppy started barking and the boy told him to stay hidden because they needed to be cautious. Since they needed to reach Sokolin's location, the alleys he was walking through became increasingly abandoned. Finally, he came across a very discreet door. This is the house of the person he is looking for. Our protagonist had no ceremony. He simply opened the door and went inside. A person asked who he was. She was holding a knife and wanted to know how he was able to get in. Since her residence is hidden by magic, the woman in front of him was Sokolin herself. The protagonist asked if that identity really belonged to her. Showing the ring to the girl, he said that he had received orders from the bald man to find her, and she immediately recognized that item. The system said that the quest was completed, and our protagonist was eager for his next challenge. But the girl couldn't believe that the bald man had sent a brat like him. The baldness must have taken away his rationality. She said she wouldn't talk to someone who had only defeated goblins, ordering our protagonist to prove his worth. She said he should go to the forest and hunt 10,000 orcs, and the system recognized that as a new quest, which left the boy completely speechless. That number would be way too much work to achieve. He said it was simply ridiculous and the girl mocked him back, asking if he was incapable. After that provocation, he had to swallow his anger. Once outside, he said he would do as he was ordered. While thinking that this doesn't make any sense, imagining it would take months to complete that task. And he has no time to waste, however, he came across his system screen. It was informing our player that he needed to do this to obtain a fragment of the Nameless God. Several players are already in this forest. The fight against the creatures is fierce. Shields are absolutely necessary. The huge creature demonstrates its power and fury in an unstoppable manner. The archer told the damage dealer that he needs to take the opportunity, while the shield warrior holds the creature. Since the distance was safe, they began attacking it while being watched. Our protagonist finally found the true objective of that task. He needs to defeat all those creatures to obtain the item they randomly carry. But our player has eyes that can see hidden information. He only needs to defeat the monster carrying that item. Fortunately, he has already found that creature. The problem is that it is already being hunted by another team of players. Even though it's a game, doing things this way doesn't please our protagonist. Until he noticed something quite unusual. One of those players started disappearing. His teammates were scared. He had been forcibly disconnected because the game has a 5-hour usage limit, after which it forces the player to rest. That absence completely changes the outcome of the battle. Our protagonist realized this was a great opportunity, getting closer and closer to solving this problem easily. After that player left their team, his companions started being defeated, and that small team was no longer able to deal enough damage to that creature, which charged toward them completely furious to determine to finish off the remaining humans. The small woman began screaming in fear. But before she was hit by the creature's axes, an explosion happened right before her eyes. Our protagonist is calling his audience to watch what's happening, because he found a team of players in danger, and asked them what he should do in this situation. The woman didn't think twice and immediately started asking for his help. Our protagonist asked if his audience had heard that plea for help, that it couldn't be ignored by him. While wielding his staff, he called Lucky to join him in that challenging endeavor. In free fall, our protagonist decided to use his bow. The creature carefully watches the approach of its new enemies. Meanwhile, the wolf pup descends the cliff with great skill, executing his signature move perfectly, the neck bite. Even though his mouth is small, he managed to cause significant damage. But the monster proved very strong, managing to drive the wolf pup away. That distraction was enough for our protagonist to hit with fireball once again. Now he had enough distance to use the bow. Realizing that even with his attacks and the effort made by the other team, that monster still had a lot of health. This was expected, and even so, the boy is excited about his possibilities. It's that thrill that makes people spend money on the game. The monster's heavy footsteps are approaching our player. Swinging its axes aggressively, the creature intends to eviscerate that player. Even in the face of that relentless attack, the boy wasn't scared for a moment, leaving his dodge to the very last second. Taking the opportunity to use his ice attacks, ready to shoot his arrows, he thought about how he lasted 5 years in this game without any kind of luck. The arrows were already properly prepared to finish off the creature. As they flew toward the monster's chest, the boy remembered that he managed to survive only through his own effort. One arrow hit the creature in the shoulder and the other in the diaphragm. That wasn't enough to finish its life, but while it stood still, the monster realized that its suffering wasn't over. Since that young player was gathering fire in his hands, the impact of the fireballs caused a massive explosion. This type of challenge is below our protagonist's potential. After the smoke dissipated, only part of the creature's body was visible. The rest had been incinerated. With his victory, the system confirmed that he hunted an orc. Finally, the player who had been disconnected returned to the fight, apologizing to his teammates for what happened. But the scene was completely different, leaving that man puzzled. He had no idea what had happened. With everyone gathered, they thank our protagonist for his help. He said that beginners should help each other. Now he needs to continue his journey. There is an unspoken rule in that game. The players who attack a monster first have priority over the items. And before the loot could be divided, our protagonist said he had something to say. He pretended he was streaming and thanked his followers for their donations. Using all of his acting skills, he told them that his followers wanted him to collect the items. But he said they should already know the rules. He wasn't on the priority list. After hearing this, those players started talking. They said he could go ahead. At first, he tried to refuse, but they confirmed that it was okay. If it weren't for his help, they would have been annihilated. Our protagonist's cunning proved to be very effective, telling that group it wouldn't be polite if he kept refusing. He went back to acting for his audience, saying that he had received great kindness from those players and now he was going to examine the items. Extending his hand to the pile of ashes, he began analyzing what was there. 3 items were added to his inventory, and that very rare was among what he collected. This was the boy's real objective in eradicating the creature, acting for his audience, which doesn't even exist yet. He said there was no valuable item, but in his mind, he was relieved to have gotten that. Until the girl he had saved decided to approach. She wanted to know the name of that streamer because she believed their meeting was fate, and she wanted to share it with her friends. The boy doesn't make that kind of content yet, but he admitted that eventually he would. He said his name is the ARCHMAGE streamer. He immediately returns that girl's house. The boy handed her the ore he had found. In disbelief at his efficiency, she said he had gotten lucky, and the boy agreed with that version. Now there was nothing else she could do. Because luck is also a skill, and the system informed the player that the quest had been completed. Thus, he leveled up once more and could receive a card as a reward, something he did immediately. Among them, he recognized a red card. Long Throw, also a unique ranked ability. The spell's damage increases depending on the distance between him and his enemy. That would be excellent for hunting large monsters. While analyzing the card, he noticed that question mark appeared above the girl's head. Looking at her, he asked what the purpose of that small ore was. She asked if the player knew why it was so difficult to find traces of the Nameless God. It's because of the barrier that was established, and only his followers can get close to where the traces are. And she asked if the boy knew what needed to be done to destroy the barrier. Looking at the energy surrounding the girl, he wondered if she also intended to become a follower. And that's exactly what she was going to do, showing him a dark ring made with a fragment of the Nameless God. Also unique rank, that item allows its user to cross the barrier of that god. This made our players start thinking about where the altars of that entity were. The girl told him that this journey was going to be very dangerous, but he assured her that there was no danger that could stop him since danger was his middle name. She seemed to like those words. A new quest was unlocked, heading toward the main scenario. He needs to find the hidden altar and discover its secrets. As a reward, he will receive a legendary card. The quality of this reward made our protagonist's eyes pop. Getting a legendary skill card would be capable of completely changing his life. Given the quality of the reward, he thought the difficulty of this task must be impressive. It was the first time he had seen a legendary card as a quest reward. In the company of his canine friend, finding the altar wouldn't be difficult. Even the orc quest would have taken too long under other circumstances. But he was intrigued by the part of the mission that involved discovering the secret. A sudden bark from his little friend startled the boy. The puppy was sitting with a very serious expression. For a moment, the boy was thoughtful until he realized that his friend would help him in whatever way possible. He finally entered that forest. Looking at something peculiar, he began wondering if that was the entrance to the secret altar. It was a small hole in the ground. This had to be a joke. But after everything he had seen, he no longer doubted what the game was capable of. If it weren't for his eyes and his canine companion, this would have taken a long time. He decided to analyze the information about that dungeon. Its level was legendary. He needed to defeat the rotten orc and would receive an additional 3% in all his attributes upon completion. The boss creature must be much stronger than a traditional orc, and only players below level 20 can do it. Faced with this information, the boy began to think until he called his canine companion to join him, saying that they were going to hunt something else. These words left the little puppy extremely confused. But this player is level 11, and defeating that challenge could be a lot of work. He would return there when he had enough level because he understands there is no need to rush his journey, asking once again for the puppy to follow him. Because now he was going to show his companion what it's like to be the support of someone powerful. A muscular arm, full of rage, rose into the air. Striking the ground in a devastating way, the force of the impact threw some players far away. That group is desperate, and someone started arguing with the healer. Our protagonists saw their despair because those people were having difficulty defeating those monsters and the forest remains as brutal as ever. His first experience with a group of players in that place was very challenging. Soon after that, people with spare money started investing heavily in the game, increasing the gap between those who paid and those who couldn't. He used to hate that kind of person in his early days, but he is sure that now he must be seen the same way by players who don't have much money. Looking to the side, he identified a lone target. He immediately began gathering his ice magic in one hand. His bow was already properly prepared to annihilate that monster, firing his ice arrow toward it. As soon as the creature saw what was coming toward it, it panicked. The arrow managed to hit its shoulder, but the injury wasn't fatal. But that wound was enough to make it drop the sword it was carrying. Our protagonist prepared a fireball, throwing the magic toward the creature. As soon as it touched the orc's flesh, it released a massive explosion, causing our protagonist to level up once again in his journey. In the city, some rumors started spreading that there is a mage in the forest who is massacring the orcs. As if he were a one-man army, the guy who heard this was still a bit incredulous. They also heard that his class is ARCHMAGE, and they already assume he must be a streamer. A woman said he's just a rich kid bastard, and that man who was drinking became curious to know who this young man must be and what items he could get if he killed him. The rumors are so many that our protagonist feels his ears burning. But at that moment, there's a creature nearby that is completely enraged. It charges like a locomotive toward the protagonist, and he realized he needed to stay focused. Quickly summoning a fireball in the palm of his hand, he launched it into the air, intending to hit like a baseball, sending his magical attack toward the creature with great precision. The result made him very happy, as if it were a home run. After defeating that enemy, a bluish light began to appear before him, receiving the incredible information that he had reached level 20. He immediately started celebrating with his canine friend, even happier because he managed to do this in just 4 days. If he had progressed this fast 5 years ago, all the biggest guilds in the game would be subordinate to him. Since he had gained another level, he was eager to know what card he would get this time, and the puppy barked at him. It was as if the little creature sensed that something good was coming. And if a legendary card appeared there, it would be truly satisfying. But since he reached level 11, the cards that had appeared for him weren't very useful. As soon as he finished thinking that, both Heat and Lucky were shocked by what they were seeing. In the real world, outside of his capsule, someone started shouting that they had gotten something unique. The noise was so exaggerated that it started disturbing the other players. The blonde guy said he had gotten a unique ring and was so happy that he would pay for his friend's lunch. One of them said it had been a while since someone had obtained a unique item. Looking at our protagonist who was sitting, he asked if he wanted to order something to eat too. The boy's expression was completely depressed, saying that he wouldn't order anything. His friend witnessed that and was left speechless because he was worried, and our protagonist asked to be sent back in once again. His friend needed to prepare the capsule again. As the capsule was closing, he was impressed that his friend was refusing free food. Something insane must have happened to him. That skill card is incredible. Dignity of the Legendary Dragon. Targets around the user receive 10% more damage, and the area increases with the user's level. He is so happy that he can't control his own expressions. With the throw, he is able to increase the damage he deals. And the dragon's dignity increases the damage received by all enemies within the area of effect, meaning every player who joins him in battle will receive an additional 10% attack boost. He's definitely become more useful than the average player. He just needs to join any team to ensure success. But if that were his greatest desire, he would have already joined a guild. He is determined to make so much money that he will send his niece to art school and then move to a huge apartment where each of them will have their own room. Looking at the cub, he said that it doesn't understand anything it heard, but keeps reacting very well. Now they have returned to the entrance of that dungeon. Our protagonist opened his inventory window, equipping the ring that was made from the fragment of the Nameless God. He needs to use this item if he wants to open the entrance to the dungeon. Putting his whole arm inside that hole, he realized it was quite deep. Opening his hand, trying to find anything that could be useful to open it, until the ring started reacting to something. He was feeling the connection between the item and that dungeon. Because of the link between the item and the dungeon, our protagonist managed to make the entrance reveal itself. The pieces of earth were moving aside, causing a small earthquake, and in the middle of the two sections, a staircase emerged. What was once just a small hole had now become a complete passage to the underground. Seeing all that transformation, the boy was very pleased. Inside the dungeon, they started fighting creatures, and luckily, he was able to dodge quite skillfully. While our protagonist remained at a safe distance, he used his long-range spells, hitting a fireball straight into that orc's face. With that, they had already defeated 22 creatures. If he was streaming, he would have already received some donations, but he still isn't ready to reveal himself to the world. Looking around the area, he found something interesting. A large door carved into the wall, and he assumed that behind it was the boss of that place. Our protagonist opened the door very cautiously. A foul smell became very noticeable, making the boy cover his nose. The system warned that this caused him to get slightly sick, and all his stats were reduced by 10%. As soon when reading the creature's name, it was an undead and the orc had awakened. Little frightened, the boy realized that this was the last barrier between him and the legendary card. Seeing the creature's health bars, he noticed that it had 3 of them, something truly impressive, completely abnormal. It made the monster have 30 times more health than a normal orc. The first attack executed by the monster was devastating, but the boy managed to dodge. As he gained distance, he felt comfortable enough to look back, recognizing that his enemy was extremely strong, but it was also excessively slow. And you began to wonder if its movement speed was inversely proportional to the size of its health. If that's the case, he was scared for no reason at all, since at that speed it wouldn't be able to dodge those fireballs. Not to mention that he would have 2 seconds to execute his attacks from a completely safe distance, managing to hit the monster's face with great ease. Even though the attack was direct, the health removed from the creature wasn't that significant. Indeed, that was the dungeon boss, and the boy might end up taking a long time to defeat it. But that's the only difficulty he will face, because the creature's defeat is certain. After a long time, the place was destroyed. The wolf cub was completely exhausted. Our protagonist managed to win, receiving the titles of the one who does not retreat, Mirrors of Steel, and Sharpshooter, in addition to receiving a rune. The girl was amazed that he managed to find the fragment of the Nameless God and did it very quickly, but he had something to say. Before he could tell her, he received his skill book as a gift. But she said that the information might be too dense for him at his current stage. He tries to say that this is not the problem while storing the book in his things. Even though he likes quick progress, he would like to be heard. She was already aware of the player's question. He wants to know more about the last words the rotten orc had left. After the battle ended, the boy was analyzing what he had received. The creature's body rose, calling its slayer a worm, which almost made the boy have a heart attack, and the creature understood what he was searching for there. This is already the second monster that starts talking after being defeated, and our protagonist asked it to say something useful. And the monster asked that he really wishes to have the weapon that can put an end to myths. The woman simply told him to stay calm. Now she also knows that he is interested in this. She said she would tell him everything she knows about the subject as long as he does her a favor. Asking the boy for his opinion, the system said that a quest had appeared. Saeklun's request requires the player to hunt the assassin orc, and the quest was immediately accepted, and he would receive the title of Almighty Class. This made him remember a few things. The mythical item really does exist. When the game's creator was asked about it, he gave a vague answer, saying that the possibility existed but never gave further details. That ambiguous answer lacked credibility for some. And after that interview, no player managed to find a mythical item until eventually it became nothing more than a rumor among players. But if the public knew what he was just learned, it would cause a huge commotion. So he needs to be cautious not to put his family at risk. The impact in the real world would be enormous. He thinks about this while looking at the wolf cub. He asked the creature to hold on a little longer and decided he would finish this quest before thinking more about what he had just discovered. Inside his house, the boy holds his cell phone in his hands. He is reading some forums looking for information, learning effective strategies to achieve victory. The reward for winning is also good. There is also a reason why this creature is so hunted by players. It has become a trophy, a sign that the newbie you managed to defeat, it has great potential, is practically a prerequisite to be seen as a good player. Compared to the other monsters, the difficulty to defeat, it is excessive. And now the boy has gathered a lot of information, enough to know that he is not able to defeat it alone yet. Maybe he will have to find some allies to take it down. While he was deeply focused thinking about this, his brother approached, wanting to know why he was so concentrated. He said it was nothing, that he was just working. But it doesn't look like that, his brother said. Sensing that he might be worried, a protagonist told his brother not to worry because things are going very well with his work. He should smile more and worry less about him. Only then did the older brother reveal his biggest concern. He doesn't know if our protagonist will ever manage to get married. Standing up from the chair, the protagonist said that his brother is worrying too much. He should think about his own daughter. And indeed, things are going well in the game. If he sells the secret information and a few items, he'll have enough money to support himself for a few months. The problem is that the tasks are becoming increasingly overwhelming for just one person, and he needs to find a solution. After thinking about this, he told his brother that he was going out. There's no way he can hire players who are too new. That would be a waste of time. He imagines that he can win relying solely on luck. Returning to the game, a wolf cub jumps toward him full of joy. This made our protagonist very happy, realizing that Lucky had missed him. His name in the game is Midas, and he will soon become well known if he looks for a team to join. And he doesn't want the community to know his true identity, not yet. All he is now is his loyal canine companion. Noticing that a question mark had appeared above the cub's head. Shortly after, a system window popped up as well. It was about to evolve after landing the final blow on 444 monsters, and it would learn new abilities. It's finally time for it to evolve just like all divine beasts. What surprised the boy is that evolution isn't based on experience points. The people who taught that the requirement to evolve divine beasts was to hunt 5,000 monsters were all wrong. Realizing that it must be the approximate number of monsters needed for the final hit to happen based on probability. This is also very valuable information, something he will sell soon. Hugging the dog very affectionately, he said that is a big and fluffy lucky charm. He decided he would help it evolve since the cub is already able to defeat orcs and it's going to get much stronger. And you will make a lot of money with its unique reward ability. The two ran toward the forest while the boy said that Lucky is going to evolve. They won't be able to reach that number overnight, but they need to try to do what is possible, finding in the forest the first target of many. He would take the opportunity to also put into practice the skills he gained from Sakhalin. While gathering a fireball in his hand, he was thinking about the skill he gained after the dragon's dignity. Until now, he had been throwing his attacks carelessly, but maybe you will start taking this seriously from now on. The dragon's eye allows him to see the target's weak spot causing critical damage. The protagonist is eager to understand the full extent of this skill. This game doesn't assist players with aiming, so accuracy is important. But in practice, you only need to reach the minimum. Since it doesn't matter which part of a monster is hit, as long as it is hit, but this concept no longer applies to the protagonist. He activated the dragon's eyes as well as the throw. His eyes were able to calculate the exact distance to the creature. The orc was 40 meters away from the player. If he hit the weak spot from the farthest possible distance, he would be able to maximize the accumulated damage from all his passive skills. And he managed to hit that creature from the maximum range of his reach, amplifying the damage. He also managed to hit a critical spot, receiving the title of one shot on the orc, also earning a rune. The boy was very excited that he managed to defeat the creature with a single attack. He really was getting stronger and learning how to use his own blessings. He wondered what his canine friend thought about this, and he saw the little creature jump a little anxiously, realizing that he had forgotten the initial purpose of this, to help the cub evolve. In the real world, the protagonist's friend remains worried because Hyeon seems very tired, and he must be working a lot. Approaching him, he asked if everything was okay. Our protagonist said that nothing was wrong. Continuing the conversation, he asked if his character had been in the stinky forest lately. There's a rumor going around the player community that the forest is starting to stink less and less. Our protagonist didn't know this was happening. This is definitely related to the fact that he defeated the secret boss of that place. He was impressed that the main scenario could alter the game world in this way. At this rate, other players might start suspecting that someone is causing these changes. He needs to defeat the assassin orc immediately. After thinking about all these things, he asked his friend if there are still people who play the game with the sense of smell activated, especially in the stinky forest because that's weird people behavior. Back in the game, the little wolf cub runs quickly, executing a precise attack on the creature's neck. They finally managed to complete all the kills necessary for its evolution. The little cub's body began heating up a lot because of the divine powers it possesses. That was its evolution. The fur on its tail was white. Its paws had grown considerably, and our protagonist was very pleased with the result because the little cub had transformed into a young wolf, which had received a new power. While the two friends were interacting, the system said that the player needed to choose the new power. He was very happy because that was the luckiest dog in the entire game. Once again, among the cards that appeared, there was one with a golden color. Our protagonist said that the dog's name shouldn't be Lucky, but rather Cheat Key, because he can hardly believe he managed to receive that ability card. Now he should be able to defeat the assassin orc. At night in the forest, he came across Heinz's team. They were talking about some prospects for the year. A newbie had come there to hunt the assassin orc. As soon as he said that, the system notified everyone that the creature had appeared. There were already many players there lining up to participate in the hunt, until one of them warned the others that someone was trying to defeat the creature completely alone, which sparked everyone's curiosity. Inside the forest, violence is underway. One of the rules of fighting any team is that damage dealers should not attack until the tank has attracted the creature's attention. Our protagonist already has a fireball in his hands and ordered Lucky to attack now. What would happen in the game if there were a skill that draws the creature's attention in the middle of battle? That is exactly what the dog did. That skill makes the creature desire to fight the dog. A deadly duel of legendary ranking, the divine beast challenges its opponent to a fight that cannot be refused by the creature, something really beneficial in the current circumstance. With the creature distracted, the protagonist has a clear path to attack. The monster directed all this rage toward the dog, screaming furiously at it. The intensity of the sound scared the birds in the forest, and the aim of the dragon's eyes was already locked onto the creature's head. A fireball exploded upon contact with it. Because of the skill combination, the damage was greatly increased in addition to hitting a weak spot causing critical damage. Our protagonist has good expectations. It won't take long to reach Phase 3. The players want to watch the sole attempt of this mysterious person. Many believe he will fail. Others think he may believe he has a chance, but doubt he can do it. It's not possible to get past Phase 3 alone. Another fireball is flying toward the target. It hits the creature's head precisely. That monster lost much of its strength and started falling to the ground. Our protagonist warned the dove that Phase 3 had arrived. He needs to run and get away immediately. The higher a player's level, the more important it is to have a tank on the team, because damage dealers struggle with strong creatures. The monster's skin turned reddish, and it is much faster and more dangerous. If it's possible to distract the creature while attacking it, it wouldn't need a tank on the team. The monster tried to run after the dog, but ended up trapping one that's legs, and its head never stopped being targeted for you in a second. Our protagonist spent his entire life throwing baseballs. He did it desperately, putting every fiber of his body into his throws. Just to achieve that moment with perfection, the throw of the executed was perfect, enough to end the life of that creature, receiving the title of Assassin Orc Hunter. In addition to the title, the one who can solo the Assassin Orc. He also managed to level up one more time, truly formidable rewards. Now he needed to run. Arriving in the city, he went straight to that woman's house. She was once again surprised by the speed with which the task was completed. She expected him to take longer, not to mention that he doesn't seem to be injured. Putting his dog on the ground, he praised his performance in the mission a lot. If that was challenging for him, the woman said he doesn't need to know about the Almighty. But since he completed the quest, he should be rewarded anyway. And one of the rings on her hand started to glow until it began flying through the air toward the protagonist, and he managed to catch it with one of his hands. That is Sakaline's ring. It increases all stats by 20 points, increases attack by 5 points, and boosts health and mana by 25%. The item cannot be sold. The attributes are those of a very good item, leaving the boy impressed. He crouched down carefully to show the ring to his canine friend. The woman asked him to stop being melodramatic, saying they would now get to the main point. This made the boy pay more attention. After the gods began using the creations of the world to wage their conflicts, countless followers went to battle to defend the gods they worshipped, and some managed to achieve legendary reputations. But among them was someone who achieved what no one else was capable of. The one who created the myth of being undefeated, bringing great results to the god he worshipped and great fear to all his enemies. Even with the efforts of this hero, war did not find its end. That's when he finally discovered it doesn't matter how many battles you are able to win. It is completely impossible to stop the war of the gods. Thinking about these words, the protagonist understood what she meant. It is impossible to do this with just a legendary item. After coming to this conclusion, the heroes search for something that could surpass the legends, something that would put an end once and for all to that war. This is the Almighty. The system said that our boy has acquired knowledge about the Almighty class, an omnipotent weapon capable of killing even a god. She wants to know if he wants to learn more about this story. With great enthusiasm in his eyes, he couldn't hide his genuine interest in learning everything. The woman said she would give him the same task once again. He needed to defeat 1,000 zombies in the cursed forest, and the system notified that a new quest had appeared. Confident, he believed he only needed to find the creature carrying the rare item, but that's not what the system indicated. And the boy realized that this time he would have to do a full job, defeating all 1,000 monsters. That number scared him, and he said he had a question for the woman. Mockingly, she asked if he didn't want to do that task. On the outside, he said yes, but on the inside, he was completely regretting it. Back in the real world, he was upset with what was happening in the game. After a few hours, he took a break to eat while thinking that this task was going to take a long time. His friend said that he had received a call while playing. Picking up his phone, he saw it was his older brother. Calling him back, he was hoping that nothing bad had happened. The one who answered was his niece, which made him quite anxious. The girl wanted to tell him that she had received an award. His brother continued the call, confirming that the girl had received a prize for something she had drawn and wanted to tell her uncle. Our protagonist is deeply happy with this news, imagining that his niece had been awarded at school. Until he learned from his brother that this was actually a municipal award, and that now she's qualified to compete at the provincial level. This left our protagonist very impressed, telling his brother that they needed to celebrate this achievement. He asked him to tell the girl that tonight's dinner would be fried chicken, but this information left the child in a big dilemma because she didn't know which sauce to choose to go with the fried chicken. This made the protagonist realize that it wasn't common for them to choose what to eat for dinner. He said that his niece shouldn't worry about that because they were going to order all the sauces. That brief phone call was the motivation he needed to defeat all 1,000 monsters. His friend was moved by the dedication he saw because he believed that the protagonist had his account suspended and had started again from zero. Receiving a notification on his phone, he saw was a new video about the game. The next day, our boy returned to work a bit more. He greeted his friend, who was already sitting in an armchair. As he was a bit distracted, he responded a little anxiously. Our protagonist was curious about what he was watching on his phone at that hour of the morning, and he said that recent video was among the trending topics. This increased the protagonist's interest in the subject even more. It was about a rich player who managed to defeat a powerful boss alone. Our protagonist vented, saying that the rich ruined this game and that it kills the experience. Only then did he realize it was about the assassin orc, and people were talking about him. This left him very scared. He had to watch that video too. The girl presenting the content was talking about the news, about the player who managed to defeat the assassin orc without the help of others, revealing that the game favors those who can pay. Through the video recording, they noticed that he used the divine beast as a tank, and some players don't agree that this counts as winning solo since he used the help of the divine beast. The views on the video keep increasing. Our protagonist tried to be as discreet as possible, but that wasn't the result he achieved. If he had known the news would be this popular, he would have provided the video to the internet himself. He started thinking about whether he should leak some of his content from now on. The protagonist's friend also agrees that the problem with the game is the rich who can buy game-changing equipment. Our protagonist said that this player might be a good person and that wealth doesn't determine someone's character. But his friend reminded him that the protagonist used to say the rich should be hit by a truck or struck by lightning. Realizing his contradiction, the boy started sweating cold. With no way to continue that conversation, he said he was going to start playing and was heading to one of the capsules. The cursed forest is so dark that a single wrong move can leave the player surrounded by dangerous creatures, and our protagonist has his bow in hand. He fires his arrow in a place that many players chose to ignore. He managed to hit the monster's weak spot. He is hunting zombies. Because he has the dragon's eye, it's not that difficult, and by firing so many ice arrows, his skill is improving. So far, he has managed to defeat 74 creatures. He's a bit behind the goal he wanted to reach, but he keeps being delayed by the dog. The dog frequently gets distracted by the smells it senses in the place. The animal started staring at one of the trees there. But our protagonist wished it would ignore those things for a moment, going toward the herbs that are found, which are worth 20 coins. Once he found the item, he wouldn't miss the opportunity to collect it because he loves making money. The dog found something else in the forest, and judging by his canine friend's reaction, it doesn't seem like he just found an item. In the middle of a clearing, a person is lying on the ground. Lucky approached him. The man was very weakened. This is a character our protagonist had never encountered in the game before, and he asked if he was okay. A little disoriented, the bald man asked who our protagonist was. He had to think about what answer he would give him, until he said his name was Midas and that he was an explorer from the city of Wigger. If that man was looking for a stolen or lost property, or if he needed a bodyguard to reach the next city, our protagonist would gladly take on that role, making himself available to help him with whatever he could, saying that he expects nothing in return while thinking intensely about the money he could make. All those words left the bald man quite confused. He thanked the offer, said his name was Yoshi, and said he didn't want to be rude, but there was no one there to ask for help. An exclamation mark appeared above that character's well-lit forehead. He revealed that he needed 100 fragments from those cursed zombies. A quest appeared with a unique ranking whose reward was a card book. The bald man wants to know if our player will help him, and while picking up the plant the dog found, our protagonist said yes. When the third best player in the game was asked what was the best way to gain experience, he said it was very simple. Just have unique and legendary quality items and skills of the same category, then defeat monsters at least 10 levels higher than the player. And do all this completely alone, which is almost exactly what our protagonist is putting into practice. He managed to level up one more time. After a while, he managed to defeat 200 creatures. He didn't imagine leveling up would be this easy. Between one kill and another, he always thanks his canine friend for all the help. He said he was going to rest a little now, which made the dog sad. He immediately picked him up in his arms to pet him, but the dog got distracted by something it sensed in that forest. The protagonist jokingly commented that he almost disobeyed his master Lucky. He ended up meeting a character named Jack, who asked to be found in the city to reward him, giving the boy a rare level quest. He knows that the cursed forest is not a very popular place among players, but he found it strange that he hadn't encountered any other players since it wasn't as harsh as the starting village. The Explorers Guild should have influence in that place too. Yet on the way there, he didn't meet anyone from that guild, which left him quite discouraged. The dog was already near him, barking happily. It was time to get back to work. In the city of Wigger, the character was impressed with the protagonist's achievement in managing to defeat all those zombies. Now he would give him the promised reward. In an alley, the boy put the dog down and said they would do all the options and collect all the rewards before leaving. That particular card seemed very useful. It increased the attack of all fire spells and reduced the casting time. And he wanted to know if they should use the unique card they received from Yoshi. Immediately opening the card book, a large wall of them formed in front of the boy. After several hours of playing, his capsule began to open. His friend said he played a lot that day, barely having time for breaks. But he was worried that he had stayed for 4 hours and 44 minutes because 4 is a very unlucky number in China, and asked if anything bad was happening. Our protagonist said he felt like he was going crazy and wanted a bit of space because he was going crazy with happiness. The last time he played, he got the Ballista ability, which can be sold for 13,000 coins. As the name suggests, it increases magic attack as long as the caster doesn't move, reducing the spell's cooldown time. It can cause huge changes in combat just by staying still in the back line. This ability has great synergy with Dragon's Iron Throw. He started receiving some private messages because of the video he had posted of the battle with the assassin orc. One company wants to establish a contract with him, and another wants the exclusive rights to the video, and these aren't even the only proposals. The companies are desperate to get something. Seeing an offer of just 100 coins for the video, our protagonist felt offended because you believe it was worth much more. Only then did he realize it was actually 10,000 coins. The first thought that came to his mind was that this was nothing but a prank, but he started to analyze the content of that message better. It was from the Rising Star channel, which believes in quality instead of valuing quantity. They have excellent videos and very good publicity, managing to gain many subscribers in a short time. Their most important area currently is focused on rising newcomers. If he accepts this contract, he won't need to sell the ballista. He decided that he would reply to them. Inside a company building, they were discussing whether it was worth buying that video. The company's president asked where the secretary had graduated from and learned it was from a famous university. He believes that the skills of the mysterious ARCHMAGE who is streaming are not exceptional. Thinking that he achieved it through money, he must have spent a large sum to reach that level. This is the president of the Rising Star Company, Park Hyunjun. What makes him curious is the desire to understand the reason that motivated someone to spend so much money. His employee wants to better understand that statement. If he had paid for a service to gain levels, he would have leveled up very quickly. Even so, that player does everything alone. That's what he would like to figure out if the secretary doesn't know how to answer either. To the president, the player does this because he wants attention. Someone so desperate for attention wouldn't reject an offer from them. Asking his employee how the player would react, he heard that the player would certainly accept the proposal. But he asked the secretary what else he would do, saying he would be willing to meet him for a meal and drinks. The closer they get, the higher the chances of the proposal working. Considering the amount of money he must have spent, this player must be a multimillionaire. 10,000 is nothing compared to the chance of getting close to someone like that. The The secretary noticed that their email had been answered. The company's president is sure the player will present himself as someone very important from a big company, and the secretary said he was right. That made the president even more confident. Now he wanted to know what the reply said. The secretary said that their proposal is being very well analyzed. Hearing this left the president relieved because he is eager for his company to absorb the potential of that prospect. Inside the forest, our protagonist attracts several creatures, aiming at their weak points. Without leaving the spot he is in, he used the ballista skill, increasing the damage of his attacks. The first impact happened, and the applied damage was maximized to the limit, a result that left our protagonist very enthusiastic. He managed to eliminate all the creatures that were there, completing the mission in progress, returning once again to that woman's house. She wants to know what went through the boy's mind while he was defeating 1,000 monsters. He first told her that the stench from the stinky forest came from the creature he defeated, and that made him think about something. Maybe the cursed forest had always been under the influence of the Nameless God. For reaching that conclusion, the woman praised his line of thinking. That pattern is a bit obvious, and the boy is expecting to receive a quest to defeat the monster that must be maintaining the curse on the forest. And she said that he must figure out why that place is cursed, making the boy immediately ask for the next reward. As soon as the system recognized the new quest, she asked him to go quickly. But our protagonist had some questions to ask. He told her that he worked really hard to defeat all the creatures. Even with that venting, she doesn't seem to care about the boy's exhaustion. Her reaction was so unusual that he even thought it might be a system error. Placing his hand on the doorknob, he said it was time to leave. Before he could leave, she said it was very clear that he was going to have difficulty, and she would give him a little help, which was inside that book. The boy managed to grab it with his hands, deeply thanking her for the gift he had received. His happiness was so great that it prevented the dog from howling at him. Eager to see the skill card, our boy was anxious for it to be good. Several cards appeared in front of him. He had received the double summon, allowing him to cast 2 enchantments at the same time. Several hours passed once again, and the boy's capsule opened. His friend quickly approached, saying he needed to hear the news. People are going crazy on the forum. The boy asked him what they were talking about. It's about a double summon card. It's been months since the last one was announced for sale, and one of those cards just appeared. Our protagonist imagines that someone besides him must have gotten it. Asking how much is being listed for, he almost had a heart attack upon finding out it cost 60,000. After the game launched, it took a while for prices to stabilize because there were so many different items. Skill cards were difficult to evaluate, because it was complicated to understand their value until someone tested them in practice. But there were a few exceptions to this, and double summoning is one of them. Our protagonist wished that what he received from the game could be sold. If that were possible, he would suffer a lot while deciding what to do. It didn't take long for him to see another email arrive. Inside the company, an employee asked if they should send it here. The new contract model for the videos of the mysterious ARCHMAGE. They offered almost 13,000 coins for the video where he defeats the sorcerer. Completely relaxed, the president has his doubts if this was really impossible. Faced with his disbelief, the secretary also agrees with this since it could indeed be impossible. But he believes he has figured out the protagonist's personality, predicting exactly how he will act. Certainly, he would not refuse that offer. Soon, he will spend almost 60,000 on items and skills until it becomes a matter of time before they develop a relationship where both will want to spend on each other. The secretary asked why they offered almost $12,950 instead of $15,000. Doesn't want the boy to get the impression that is worth more, so he set such a specific number, assuming that our protagonist will think they are doing their best to pay what they can. All of these are techniques he learned in college. Back in the game world, our protagonist is wearing the orc outfit, activating passive effects. That was the set of equipment he always wanted to have, but it was too expensive. If anything happens, he can sell it in the future, so it's better than receiving skill cards. But he also bought other things. Thunder and Fire Spear. Our protagonist never thought the day would come when he would spend money on this. This makes him quite emotional. No matter what happens this time, he and his canine friend need to be able to defeat the creature on their own. He spent all the money he had saved until now because that email means is being tested. Imagining that the company wants to know if it's worth investing in him, he assured this won't be a one-time event. It's his opportunity to become a star. He needs to do this. He needs to be able to win alone no matter what happens. Inside the forest, other players start to hear sounds. It was our protagonist who had approached and asked if they belonged to the Explorers Guild. Those players soon realized that the dog was a divine beast. Assuming that the person next to it must be the famous streamer, they asked if there was any problem, and our protagonist said there was no reason for that. He said he was only safe in that place because of guilds like the one they work for. The other player thought that our protagonist was looking down on them, and they had already been instructed by their superiors not to cause problems with this player as he could become important in the future. Saying that he was busy, he asked those players to accept those bottles. They were potions that relieved stress. Unfortunately, there's no coffee, and he brought them something very similar. They thought it could be expensive, but our player didn't want them to refuse the gift, saying he was very grateful to the guild. After observing the divine beast more closely, they recognized the identity of the ARCHMAGE streamer. The people watching that said he was being very polite to those men. So the rumors that he is close to the Explorers Guild must be true. That's why he levels up so quickly. Whoever messes with him will get a lot of trouble since the Explorers Guild eliminates all their enemies. Our protagonist is aiming for this outcome, that's why he handed those potions in front of everyone. So it will seem like he's being protected by this guild. The cost of the potions is minimal compared to the results. But this won't last much more than a week, and he needs to complete the mission within that time. A loud scream is heard inside the forest. The tank of that team was quickly defeated, and some started to flee. A horror zombies is advancing furiously. A person's hand started to glow, and they wouldn't allow this to happen. Soon after, a huge explosion happened. Among those creatures, there was one that led all the others. A powerful lightning bolt struck several creatures, and that was not the protagonist's only attack as he threw a fire spear towards them, which pierced through a zombie's head in a fatal way. That really was worth the investment. He throws his attacks without much effort and still finishes the monsters. The system warned that he only has 10% mana left, and the boy realized he was spending his reserves too quickly. He took a potion to restore his mana, which was being drained very rapidly. That strategy uses magic power way too fast. At least he has the help of his canine friend, Lucky, who keeps attacking next like there's no tomorrow. After all that training, he managed to reach level 30, which completely restored his mana, leaving the boy uncomfortable because he spent 3 coins on that potion. And once again, he can choose a card, identifying that among them, there was a unique rank card. A red card stood out among the others, and the boy doesn't think he needs more power to defeat the sorcerer. But he recognizes that it would be very good to receive one more attack, even if it's not necessary, because he gets a very dedicated helper. The card in question is Strength, which besides increasing his physical attributes, also increases the range of his spells. For a moment, he was a little disappointed with that. What that ability offers is very good, and it would be even better if he could use it on his companion, because he doesn't know if the card would be well utilized by him. Only then did he notice that it increases the range of his attacks, which could end up being very good for his strategy. It didn't take long for him to choose that card. Elsewhere, a zombie is being attacked by a player, but that strike only made it even angrier. The warrior with the sword asked his team if that was the last monster. Their archer said there was nothing left in that area to hunt. After hearing that, the warrior wants to be sure since last time they almost died when surrounded by monsters. He was quickly reassured by the archer, who said he used his eagle eye ability to scan the area and there's nothing within a 50-meter radius. And that zombie is the only thing left. An explosion happens behind the creature. They identify that attack as a fireball, and the warrior became worried because he thought there was nothing else there. Even scared, the archer said there isn't, at least not within the first 50 meters. In their team, no one uses fire attacks. This explanation is starting to make no sense until they accepted that the attack came from an even greater distance. Our protagonist was the one who did that. His attack reached the mark of 80 meters, something truly impressive. Since he wasn't expecting the ability to increase his range that much, the dog is not left behind and continues attacking the zombies. The animal was also benefited by the skill card. Maybe our protagonist needs to recalculate everything he has, since now he is capable of attacking monsters at a distance of 100 meters depending on the dog's physical attack. He realized something quite interesting. Maybe defeating the sorcerer will be an easier task than he was imagining. That group of players started interrogating a mage they had found. They wanted to know if he was the one who had stolen that creature from them. The player said he didn't do anything and that all he was doing was hunting the creatures in the area he was in, and the archer told his companion to stop wasting his strength. But he was very upset with what had happened since there is no one in that area capable of killing these monsters with just one attack. A little further away, they are saying that the ARCHMAGE streamer will try to defeat the sorcerer alone. The fame of our protagonist is starting to spread among the players who are already eager to witness his feats. Those 2 random players were very intrigued by the words they heard. Our protagonist started recording and began thinking about the words he was going to say. He introduced himself to the audience he has. While Amy had the head of one of the creatures, he was telling people what he was going to do that day, confirming to them that he would defeat the sorcerer of that forest alone. He also said it wouldn't be very fun if he just defeated the monster. So he proposed the following challenge. He would do all of this without taking a single hit. With his dual element attack spells, he started sending his attacks toward the creature, which was already being hit by him, unable to defend itself. One of his heads was already burning in flames. Our protagonist is quite pleased with the result of his actions. The creature's hand started to glow as it was being surrounded by energy. Using its power, it made other creatures rise from the ground as if it were a necromancer. The staff used by the creature was amplifying its power. That monster was prepared to cast some kind of spell. But the dog, addicted to biting necks, wouldn't allow that to happen because it was satisfying its desire to tear jugulars with its jaws. The sorcerer proved to be strong, repelling an attack from the dog with one of its hands, began to focus on the creature that was in front of its eyes. Who is happy with this is our protagonist, witnessing the dog's actions, who continues preventing that monster from summoning anything. He would take this opportunity to corner his target, destroying the creatures that had just been summoned. Those that are less dangerous have already been eliminated and is far enough from the target creature. Using the dragon's eye, he confirmed that the distance between them is 60 meters. He told his audience that from this point on, he would simulate a stationary cannon. Since he was using throw and ballista while preparing to throw fire spells as if they were baseballs, it didn't take long for his attacks to start hitting that sorcerer, who once again began to burn with his flames. During the attack, the boy noticed something happening nearby. Player was lying on the ground scared, and that group that was hunting in the forest is hiding in the trees, afraid of being noticed. Their friend apologized because he was too impressed by what he saw and was advised by the others to hide as well. They believe that our protagonist hasn't noticed them, and since he is a heavy damage dealer, they are very scared. They want to take the opportunity to get the items received from defeating the sorcerer. The archer would be the one to land the final blow, and the sorcerer continues engaged in combat with the protagonist. Saying that the monster was already close to entering the third phase, he told the archer to pay attention because when it starts using zombie gathering, that will be their opportunity. This is the creature's most powerful technique, which will gather all the zombies in a large area. The monsters will attack those involved in combat, and at that moment, that group will attack the sorcerer. They noticed that the spell had been cast. Our protagonist also knows what that means. They had entered the third phase. He managed to deal even more damage than expected, so he reached the final phase very quickly. It would be good to extend it a little. He told his audience to exercise as well while thinking that those players are ready to steal his reward and is not going to make life easy for those thieves. He said he would show his followers the trump card he had kept hidden until now, his fifth magical technique. The archer believes they still haven't been noticed and is confident they will be able to execute the plan. But the warrior became worried about something. He saw our protagonist rushing toward the creature, not understanding why he decided to reduce the distance of the fight. It's truly impressive that he chose to use an axe to finish the fight, driving his blade between the creature's two heads. If things keep going this way, those players won't be able to steal the rewards. Not to mention they can't understand how the ARCHMAGE manages to deal so much damage with a melee weapon. Finally, our protagonist managed to defeat the creature, receiving the title of Sorcerer Hunter for doing so. After catching his breath, he asked his audience what they thought about that, revealing that he had used physical fortification to finish the job, as did the members of the Explorers Guild who watched everything from the front row, leaving those players scared because if they get caught, they risk having to abandon the game. Now the archer understands why that player behaves so carefree. They immediately ran away from there because they didn't want any more problems. Our protagonist, Bluff, was incredibly effective. The scarecrows he had placed on the ground worked perfectly. Returning to the city, he immediately went to talk to the girl. She looked at him with a lot of disdain. Our protagonist was very out of breath, grateful that his plan had worked in the end, managing to defeat the creature completely alone. While celebrating his accomplishment, the joy he felt for himself kept growing. Only then did the girl ask if he had done what she asked, and confirmed with great joy. Showing her a small item, he said he believed that this was the reason the forest was cursed, and he handed her the cursed stone. The item was going toward the girl's hand. As soon as she touched it, the object's aura began to grow, but she quickly made all that energy dissipate. Leaving our protagonist very intrigued, she closed her hand, crushing that stone, satisfied that the boy had discovered the truth. The curse's energy was now within that place. Gathering at a single point, it transformed into a kind of staff, which was handed to our protagonist. Of great magical power, it increases attack by 52, intelligence and magical power by 25 points, increases magical damage by 10%, and accelerates spell casting. Even though it seems like something simple as attributes are really impressive, the girl said that the fragment was rejecting her mana and asked if the player understood what that meant. That fragment probably already has an owner. That is exactly what is happening. The object is still connected to its original owner. She needs to do something about this. Ordering the player to go to the Dorado mines and meet with the blacksmith Suga, a new quest was proposed to him. In the real world, the exchange of messages between our protagonist and the agency continues. The company believes he wants results. The secretary is trying to understand better, and the company president is feeling tested. After watching the last video, he realized that the content is different from the previous one. The player is using other items and has more abilities. Now he is capable of using 2 spells at the same time. An ability like that was being auctioned not long ago, but it was withdrawn from the market. A sign that someone must have bought it for an even higher price. A secretary came to a conclusion. The ARCHMAGE bought it. This president is bizarre. He really believes that the protagonist spent more than 100,000 to buy it, and he continues negotiating with them, which makes him think about the true message hidden in what he had received from him. Imagining that there must be something concealed when he said he was looking forward to seeing the positive results of the collaboration between them, the secretary thought it might be a subtle warning that in the future, there would be no exchange between them. This made the president order his employee to redo the first video of our protagonist. To greatly improve the quality, use more resources, and add more sponsorships. They need to follow the temperament of this new client. Continuing the main quest, our boy went to the Dorado mine, a hunting place for players above level 40. The monsters don't appear outside, but in dungeons inside the mines. Those who cannot find a team in this place would end up falling behind quickly. Eventually, those who couldn't keep up would be left behind. A very unfortunate outcome, but that region separated the good players from the best as if it were a test. Until now, our protagonist had always been on the side of those who are rejected, but his situation has completely changed. He does a pickaxe working. His quest is to request the crafting of a compass using the cursed stone as material. That character is the dwarf called Zuga, and he asked what our player wanted to discuss with him. Our boy introduced himself as an adventurer sent by Sakhaline to that place. He needs to make a compass using that stone and heard that the dwarf would be able to perform this task. Knowing the woman, he imagined that our boy must have gone through some trouble, and indeed, that's what happened. The dwarf knows her personality and knows she must have made absurd requests whenever she had the chance, and our boy started to feel empathy for this character. He said that he went through complicated situations, but believes that the girl must have her reasons. Hearing the boy's words, the dwarf was impressed with his character and asked him to look the necklace he was carrying. It is made of spiritual metal, which can only be extracted from that region. That item reacts in the direction of its owner's mana. The boy asked if he needed to mine that material, but the dwarf said he could do it himself. This made our protagonist like him even more, until the dwarf asked the player to clear the dungeon. All the sympathy he had cultivated for him disappeared. Meg finally fell upon them. Our boy is not happy with the task he had received. Cleaning tasks are far too complicated. He thought about taking the opportunity to record his entire experience to produce content. He asked if his dog was listening and saw an exclamation mark appear over his head. That immediately made him curious. He asked what the dog was trying to say. He said he would do everything for him while hugging his canine friend with all his strength. Before starting the work, he granted the dog physical fortification. After consuming some items, his strength, endurance, and speed had greatly increased. The boy hopes this is enough because his companion was almost ready to evolve once again. He needs to defeat 99 high-level creatures. While looking at the dog worried, he saw that the creature was radiant. He entered the cave with a fireball in his hand because he didn't want his friend to get hurt. It didn't take long for them to encounter some creatures. The dog immediately took care of eliminating them. The ease with which he did it was so great that it left our boy impressed. His dog was threatening, and the creatures started to become terrified as they were being eliminated with great ease. Our protagonist realized he had worried for no reason. Now they can continue exploring that dungeon without major concerns until they finally manage to meet the requirements for evolution. Lucky's body was overflowing with divine power. He was about to evolve once again, receiving a new power. The cards are in front of our protagonist who needs to select what will happen. His eyes came across something very useful for him. Quick as lightning, which increases all of the dog's movement for 5 minutes. Lucky started howling while his body was coated in energy. Outside the dungeon, people started asking who this person is who doesn't stop hugging the divine beast. They started thinking he might be crying, but our protagonist is actually very happy. Because his canine friend defeated a monster in just 9 seconds, he is practically as fast as lightning. He started swearing loyalty only to that dog. His companions started getting agitated because he had sensed the scent of a secret dungeon. That was really interesting to them. The reward offered by it is generous. Still happy with his companion, he carried the dog in his arms into the dungeon, a scene that left other players intrigued. They started getting annoyed with the game because even a weirdo like him can have a divine beast. The system said that he had entered his secret dungeon inside the mine. At the advertising company, it's already been an hour since they published the video with updated editing. The president is thinking about the name chosen by our protagonist. After watching the video, he asked his secretary what the published reactions were. The view rate was going up really fast because it was being promoted on the game's video platform. He believes that the first video was uploaded to the cloud by the player himself. That made the secretary very thoughtful, imagining that their client uses his own time and money to create rumors about himself. The president knows that no matter how big a person is, sometimes they are not well known. These words left the secretary confused. While the president explained that rumors are the easiest way to gain notoriety in the media, being the case, a scenario similar to the first one will soon come upon them. As soon as he finished talking, another employee showed up. The president is eager to know what he has to say. They managed to catch the attention of a player named Asmo. This man is a prince from one of those oil-rich countries. His wealth is truly enormous and he spent millions of dollars to obtain the ARCHMAGE class. Known as the man who spent the most in this game, he is also a hoarder of items. He also did streaming, where he used new items and abilities like it was an unboxing video. From the comment he left on the video, they realized there is an item in the game that not even he knows about. That is understandable since there are unknown things in that game, but that's not the most important part. What caught the president's attention was Asmo questioning the legitimacy of the item. Someone as important as him wouldn't leave a comment on that video without a purpose. Asmo is not a fool and has free time to avoid doing nothing. Certainly, someone asked him to do that. Maybe the request was for him to identify that new item and that friend could be the ARCHMAGE streamer himself. Someone related to both of them. The president is assuming there is a connection between them. So they have nothing to lose in this business. Coming to the conclusion that some of his theories might be wrong, poor guy, he has no idea that he's been wrong about everything so far. The only thing he got right was noticing that our protagonist has potential that exceeds all the predictions he had made. He asked his secretary to send a response. They would change the profit distribution of all the videos. The company would receive only 40% of everything. The employee realized that with that division, they wouldn't make any profit. But the president is confident in the conditions he will propose, imagining that their client is going to prepare something that will shock the internet. After leaving his capsule, our protagonist started stretching his own body. He is almost finishing that dungeon. His friend asked if he was really leaving on time that day, and our boy said the guy should have helped him earlier. He apologized, saying he was late because he was watching a video. That is already quite popular among people, and our protagonist wants to know what it is, becoming very happy when he finds out it's a video of his own character. Wanting to know more about it, he heard from his friend that the video is about to surpass 1 million views, a truly impressive metric. On top of that, the player, Asmo, left a comment on that video saying that he saw a completely unprecedented item, which left our boy terrified. The goblin staff was a reward he received after completing a dungeon. But in the current configuration of the game, only he could obtain something like that. Feeling quite sad, he thought he had ruined everything, slamming his hands against the bathroom wall and scaring a person who was working nearby. He left a clue about the main storyline. Now he wants to know why someone as important as Asmo got interested in the video. He imagined that someone might have informed him about it and that they must already know what item that is, because there are people still searching for the main storyline. Until our protagonist remembered something, he is sure that channel is going to sign a contract with him. And he had already received a response from them, becoming impressed to find out he would receive 60% of the profits. That is simply impressive. Nobody knows about the main storyline yet, and even if they did, they wouldn't be able to catch up to our protagonist. He decided that he would keep trying. The stage is already set for his actions, so he needs to deliver results. They managed to find the boss of that secret dungeon, a level 42 creature. If our protagonist were a normal player, he would have had a lot of difficulty in that fight. The creature uses holes to move around, making its attacks hard to predict. At least, that's what would happen to an ordinary player. This does not apply to our protagonist, who can perfectly identify which hole it will come out of, making it just a matter of patiently waiting for the creature to appear from the hole. As soon as he was sure where it would come out, he fired his arrows toward the creature, defeating the dungeon boss and receiving titles as a reward. Now he could receive the dungeon's secret card. Several cards appeared in front of our protagonist, who started looking through those abilities. There was something interesting there, the lightning shield. An enemy that touches it would be paralyzed, and the boy doesn't believe he needs more elements. So the lightning shield would be interesting for his canine friend, because it would be a great combination with the attributes he already has. This made our protagonist thoughtful, imagining he should focus on strengthening the dog. So he began observing the cards that would best serve his friend. There is one called Impetus. If he had that, you could try to execute a speedrun for his audience from that point forward. Impetus summons a fairy that increases the target's movement speed, something useful for both defense and offense besides being very expensive. After thinking about it, our player left the game, but quickly returned to the dungeon. He confirmed the price of that ability. It cost 6,000 coins, but he decided to buy it anyway. It costs several months of his living standard, but he sees the card as an investment because it would be very useful from that point on. Now they could do speed runs inside the game. They found an easy dungeon to complete. It's the type of standard dungeon that appears in that mine. Using a simple analogy, those dungeons are the equivalent of 100-meter sprint races in athletics. That's why this is the preferred place for speedrun practice among players. The fastest dungeon completion time, there was 4 minutes and 11 seconds, achieved by the player Kojiro, who has the legendary Sword Emperor class. This record was set many years ago and remains unbeaten. Our protagonist thinks it's impossible to surpass the historical record, but is confident that he can get very close. He used his fortification on the dog, as well as the impetus he had bought, viewing him items that boosted his attributes. His companion became very powerful, and our protagonist started recording, politely introducing himself to his audience. He said that on this occasion, he would attempt to speedrun in the dungeon that appeared in the mine. But there was one key difference. His canine companion would do everything alone, something that hadn't been attempted yet. Excited for his first try, he asked the dog to start. The muscle-filled wolf moves quickly. The creatures inside the dungeon watch in fear while being annihilated one after another. There is nothing they can do against that threat since they get paralyzed as soon as they touch him. Our protagonist noticed that the pace of progress was very satisfying until an aggressive creature appeared near him, but its attack was unable to hit him. He told the creature that he wasn't going to attack today and wasn't interested in the common items it had to offer. Even though he's working alone, Lucky is doing an excellent job. He has already become a specialist in biting necks. There is nothing that can stop him inside that dungeon. His companion's speed is much greater than he expected. Maybe they can break the historical record. As soon as he thought that, the system announced that the dungeon had been cleared. For a moment, this news left him very thoughtful. He confirmed the information when he saw his friends celebrating while howling. The lightning effect hadn't worn off yet, and he knows that it lasts 5 minutes. Little by little, our protagonist's understanding is starting to piece everything together. In the real world, our boy is quite thoughtful. One of his friends then approached him because he was worried about the boy. He smelled the traditional medicine and knew that our protagonist hasn't been feeling well lately. He advised him to take better care of his health because he can't afford to get sick since he needs to help his own family. Our protagonist probably didn't even pay attention to that because his heart is racing. He didn't expect to break that record, and to make things worse, he managed to record the entire experience. He thought he was lucky because there were few monsters in that place and wonders what kind of reaction the Rising Star channel will have when they receive this video. The president remains quite worried. Even though the number of subscribers is rising, he told his employee that the way they throw the bait into the lake is very important, but the employee still doesn't understand why the profit split is happening that way. His president said it was just bait. They don't want the client to feel like a fish, and he hopes he wasn't offended. But the secretary said they had already received a response. The president was thrilled that he had taken the bait. That message had 2 recordings, the first one they had already requested, and now the second one. It was something that left them completely speechless. Our protagonist was getting out of his capsule. Once outside, he started stretching his body as usual. Noticing that there were no other players in that place, he figured everyone was at the lounge. But he still didn't understand why everyone was looking at their phones. He soon realized they were watching the video he had recorded. The content had already been posted on the Rising Star channel. His friend came running to him to share the news. The latest video of the ARCHMAGE is a hit. Our boy asked if Asmo had made another comment or something like that, and that's exactly what happened. For a moment, our protagonist imagined that this wouldn't be possible, but that's exactly what happened. Asmo noticed that the player had a unique ring. The protagonist immediately became worried because that's Sakaline's ring that's on his hand. Putting his hands on his head, he started wondering if this is really real, because he has the feeling that Asmo doesn't stop watching everything he does. For sure, he must not be the only player observing the protagonist's movements. Soon, the number of people paying attention to him will increase a lot. Imagining that this could lead to dangerous situations within the game. Standing still in one place is quite dangerous. He needs to leave the mines as quickly as possible. He asked his friend to prepare the capsule, but is worried about our protagonist, who still hasn't eaten. The boy said he's feeling fine. He just needs to eat some sweets. But the snacks were gone. Only some candy was left, which he kindly offered to his friend. But our protagonist doesn't like that kind of thing and suggested that it should be thrown away. But his friend likes it because of a romance novel he had read, and our protagonist decided not to be stubborn. It's better than eating nothing. Entering the game once again, the dwarf was already waiting for his arrival, congratulating the player for what he had done. For clearing the mine, the dwarf managed to gather the necessary material, and our player is relieved that he didn't need to mine anything. Showing him the necklace, the dwarf said he had completed his task. All the boy needs to do now is use the item. He needs to be quick and return to Sokolin, but that wasn't necessary because the woman appeared before them, leaving our protagonist very impressed. She wants to know why Zuba called her there. The dwarf said that the necklace had been completed and that it was necessary for her to carry out her part of the task. The girl put her hand inside a dimensional portal, pulling from it the small cursed stone. Handing the item to the dwarf, she asked him not to do anything stupid, but he reminded her that they had made his soul pact for this kind of thing. The girl asked him to stop talking about that kind of nonsense. Our protagonist was confused because he couldn't tell whether they were close or not. Maybe those characters are in a situation where collaboration is mandatory. The game's main storyline is about finding the almighty class, an item capable of destroying a god. A stone was placed inside the pendant of the necklace, which began to levitate in the dwarf's hands. He immediately grabbed the necklace so it wouldn't go flying around. Our protagonist was surprised to realize that the item was pointing toward him. But those other two characters understood that, in fact, the item was pointing north. The necklace was finally delivered to the boy. He leveled up twice for accomplishing this, feeling impressed. Now he needed to claim his rewards, but he told the system that he would do it another time. His heart is not being spared in these experiences. He asked the dwarf why he had received the cursed necklace. The system says that the necklace carries the fragment of a cursed being, increasing all attributes by 50 points, as well as mana recovery speed, attack speed, and casting speed. That item is truly impressive. The warden told him to go in direction the necklace points and find out what is in that place. No matter what happens along the way, a new quest has been received. He needs to go to the northern swamps and discover what is in that place. He will receive a legendary skill as a reward. This reward left him speechless. He told the girl that he would complete this quest no matter what happens, while his heart races uncontrollably. To calm himself, he hugged his canine companion, who was very helpful at times like this. Only then did he remember that he still had cards to receive since he had leveled up twice. Among that card game, two stood out. These would be the ones chosen by our protagonist. The first is the Guardian skill, which made our player very happy. The employees are completely exhausted, but they managed to finish editing the video. The company president is quite pleased. He's eager to see the final product. The recording of that speed drum is happening now, listening to his client say that the dog would do it alone. Not even the player who set that record must have imagined it would be broken by a dog. The president can barely conceive how many views this video could get. His secretary suggests that it will surpass 2 million. Since the historical record was broken by a dog, this will certainly spark a huge discussion, and it was very well done despite the speed. The exhausted worker assures that the product is very well made even though it was done in just one day. It reached the part where our protagonist was talking about the items he used last time since some people were questioning where he had gotten them. The company president believes that the video will surpass the 10 million mark. His confidence in this is overwhelming, leaving his employees impressed. Guardian is a skill that makes a monster the player has hunted start obeying them. It was restricted to the ARCHMAGE class and was one of Asmo's recorded moves. Our protagonist never imagined he would receive this card. Practically speaking, it falls far behind other things because it's necessary for him to have a deep understanding of the hunted monster. If the level difference is too big, he cannot use the skill. It is also necessary that he has defeated at least 100 of those creatures. And since the most powerful creatures are limited in number, it is almost impossible to turn them into a guardian. Asmo became popular with this skill because it allows the creature to use the player's items, even legendary quality ones. This way, Asmo equipped the creature with items that regular users could only dream of owning one day. Our protagonist is thinking of getting a creature that can serve as a tank, allowing his dog to focus more on attacking. His first option was to buy a golem to fulfill this need, but it would be too expensive to buy something like that. Now he needs to plan his way out of that place. Using momentum and strength, he called Lucky to accompany him. At full speed, they easily exited the dungeon. Our protagonist is being watched. These people already know he's outside. They want to know who this player is since they are being paid to monitor him. They thought it was exaggerated that 3 were hired to act against that mage. One of them said he doesn't know what goes on in his employer's head, but as long as he gets paid, he'll complete the mission. His partner agreed with that, acknowledging that it's better if the task is easy. They soon realized the target was running. The movement was so sudden that they thought they had been discovered, but it doesn't matter if that really happened since he is just a mage. They began to wonder whether they should chase him immediately or take their time with the task. The conversation was interrupted because one of them was very scared, saying they were completely screwed. Our protagonist noticed their approach. That task had become very difficult for these mysterious players because the target in question has an abnormal speed. Our protagonist asked his canine companion to stop running as well. The dog obeyed his master. The boy knows that his pursuers will not be able to catch up with them at this pace. After all, he is carrying a necklace that grants several benefits. As long as he has it, he can worry less and less about his pursuers, as he will be able to escape any situation. Soon, the dog's video will be on the internet. Playing with the animal, he said that the video would reach 10 million views and Lucky would buy new equipment for his master. Despite the jokes, he is very grateful for the dog's company. Now they need to head back toward the swamps. Another video of our protagonist has been uploaded to the internet. It is the speedrun performed by his dog. Some people who haven't even watched the video are already questioning the statement in the title, but it was as real as it could possibly seem. The wolf had indeed completed the dungeon alone, breaking the record set several years ago. The people who watch it were divided. Those who weren't impressed were left wondering who was even real. Now the legendary swordsman had become worse than a dog. Everywhere, people are talking about what happened. That divine beast is exceptional. Since the video is 5 minutes long, some people want to know what the ending is about. It was our protagonist talking about the items he used in the previous video. Without giving much more information about them, he stated that he has something else exclusive. Showing a simple stick, he asked if anyone knows what it is because he was going to explain everything to his audience. Osmo saw yet another item he didn't recognize and is already eager to hear the explanation, making a generous donation to our protagonist of 10,000 coins. My God, the life of the rich is really something. People can't stop talking about the latest video from our protagonist. They also didn't expect him to have responded to Asmo about that. Not to mention that once again, an unknown item to Asmo was shown to everyone. Some started to think that these players worked together. It was so unusual that it seemed more likely to be staged. Our protagonist is listening to all these rumors. His friend approached him and asked if the guy agreed with it. But as soon as he got closer, he realized the protagonist wouldn't stop trembling. He said he was having a bit of a stomachache. His friend feels sympathetic since he knows how hard his situation is and even thought that our protagonist might be jealous of the ARCHMAGE's sudden success. Since he wouldn't be able to make that much money with mining, the others who also knew the protagonist noticed the strange mood in the air. The truth is the guy is trying to hide his happiness because he had become a money-printing machine. Going to the bathroom to hide, it was the most pleasant moment of his life, the moment to spend. It's time for him to start investing in the production of his videos. If you were to follow his original plan, he would buy the skill to summon golems. But since he has the guardian skill, that is no longer an urgent need. So now he has a free and open path to buy anything. There are so many possibilities that he can't even decide. Checking the price of the skill to summon golems, he saw that it costs more than 11,000 coins, but it was cheaper than usual, deciding that he would buy it anyway. Unfortunately, his transaction wasn't completed because someone else had bought it before him. Trying to console himself, he acknowledged that it wasn't an urgent item for his progress. Inside the company, the employee said that things were happening as expected, but noticed that the president didn't seem happy. Then said that things were going to get complicated from now on. His employee asked if the boss was thinking about something again. He asked his employee what they had done for the ARCHMAGE so far. The man replied that they edited the video and uploaded it to the channel in addition to all the associated publicity. Knowing this, the president stated that they are not the only ones capable of doing this job. Their client is already interacting with Asmo and they are just small contractors in this situation who could be replaced. To retain that big client, I need to show him a bit of sincerity. It's time to reveal to him the greatest trump card I learned in college. Even his employee was curious about that statement. With a smile on his face, the president revealed that it's time to use the power of bribery. Meanwhile, our protagonist is in the swamps, a hunting ground for players above level 50. That terrain is quite problematic for movement. Some players there are complaining about the excess water and humidity. It would be better if they were in the cursed forest. While complaining, a monster approaches through the water. The slow effect also applies to these creatures. And from the depths of the water, something is revealed. A huge monster stands before our boy. Because of the slowness, the scenario was perfect for an ARCHMAGE to attack. Our protagonist has his fireball prepared to be thrown, sending it toward the face of that poor creature, which was eliminated with a single blow. Since the monsters are slow, it's very easy to take them down. The creature's body fell near him, making the boy startled. Because he doesn't want to get dirty since his equipment is completely new and expensive. Lucky is also in that swamp and is very tired. The boy tried to cheer up his companion, saying that as soon as they finish the quest, they will leave that place. Even if he has to defeat 1,000 monsters, he will do it with a smile on his face. After walking for a long time, he found a large structure in the swamp. Those branches were hiding a secret entrance and the boy began to wonder if this was the right place. He extended his hand to touch it, discovering through the system that it was the lizardman's nest, part of the main scenario, and inside there are nearly 2,000 creatures. The young man was already worried about the number of creatures who have to defeat. As soon as he found that out, he became quite discouraged, because taking down all those creatures would be way too much work. The dungeon was made to be cleared in a group, and the boy realized he needed to increase his strength. It's time to get a guardian. Fortunately, they had already defeated 100 lizard men, so now he can use one of them as a guardian. This is his first time trying to use this skill. Using his staff, he summoned the first guardian. The creature's body was glowing on the ground, and it stood up through magical power. Observing our protagonist with great determination, bowing before him, it showed a lot of respect. But there was something quite curious about it. Above the creature's head, a question mark appeared. Our protagonist was surprised by the possible meaning of that. Realizing that guardians also have secret quests to complete. The manifestation of loyalty, it would level up to 8 if the creature protected its master for 33 minutes, which would increase its compatibility and allow it to speak with its master. Our protagonist never imagined that guardians had something like that, and he began thinking about this situation, putting his creature to fight immediately. It was fighting against another lizard man, proving to be far superior, defeating the enemy easily. Using magic as reinforcement, his guardian takes 3 minutes and 33 seconds to defeat an enemy. He wants to find out how powerful the creature will become when its loyalty increases. He asked the creature to focus on defense next time and not attack. Moving its sword in front of its face, it was as if it was saying it would obey. Since the goal is to make its loyalty increase, he needs to keep the fight going for all that time without defeating his enemy. It would be completely impossible to discover this condition if he played in the traditional way. Even for Asma, who can learn skills from all elements, having a guardian makes no difference. Our protagonist thought that he must be the first person to discover this secret condition. The system notified that his guardian protected him for 33 minutes. Its loyalty increased, and it learned a new skill. Our boy allowed the creature to defeat its opponent. Its eyes began to shine intensely. It said it would do this for the honor of its master, striking its enemy with precise blows. With the creature weakened, it prepared a finishing shot that hit the monster in the chest. The boy is quite impressed that the creature gained a new skill and is able to speak. All of this changed because of its loyalty. The final blow had been delivered. He realized that the guardian reduced the combat time by almost 40 seconds. The creature asked to be given a name, promising that it would do its best to be worthy of it, and the boy liked the possibility of naming his creature. He said that the lizard man would be called Gold from now on. He used logic related to the letters used in Korean to write the word guardian. The creature is ecstatic for receiving such a splendid name, saying it is too noble for him. Now it is ready to receive new orders, because it would prove that it is better than that unworthy beast. These words left Lucky quite perplexed. While the boy is impressed by the depth of the conversation, he began to wonder if he could give more detail and complex orders as loyalty increase, but Lucky didn't like what he heard. Realizing that the guardian skill is better than he imagined, he saw the two creatures start to argue. He came to the conclusion that the skill must indeed be very good since its category is legendary. Reflecting on this, he arrived at an interesting conclusion. He doesn't know if he should use that creature as his tank since Gold is a good damage dealer. A team with 3 damage dealers is already a formidable presence on the battlefield. He got the skill to summon golems, it would be even better. He could clear the creatures from the nest in less than 5 hours. Now he regrets not having bought that skill. Finally, the boy is at home, and his niece asked him to wake up because it's already time for breakfast, but is very exhausted since he played until late the previous day. The girl said that her father would scold him if he didn't get up, saying he would get out of bed soon. His phone started ringing. He wondered who was trying to contact him so early that day. Reading the notification, he saw that the company that edits his videos gifted him the golem summoning skill. In a hurry, he rushed out of the house, not even having time to eat his meal. He told his niece that it was an urgent matter and that they would have fried chicken for dinner that night. Owen is saying that they should send assassins after the famous ARCHMAGE. That's exactly what she said to her supporters. Things have been getting clearer since the last video. He must have insider information. The guy asked if she came to that conclusion because of the unique items he possesses, since there's no guarantee they'll get the items if they defeat him. The woman said it isn't necessary to get them that way. They need to confirm whether this player has clues that lead to the main storyline. Because if he has access to that, they need to stop him for as long as they can, since there's nothing to lose even if they cause a huge commotion. But the man isn't sure if there's any player who would agree to do this, because they imagine this player is putting a lot of money into the game. Some say he is conspiring with Asmo. The woman said to set a bounty of 10,000 coins. She knows a user who would do this without hesitation. The sniper from the 7 Stars Alliance. He has an alternate character who's equally powerful. Then the man said he would send the notification to him and talk to the woman as soon as he got a response. She asked him to add one more piece of information, that this is a request from the manager of the Abyss Guild, request from Emma herself. There's no hiding it. Our protagonist was deeply grateful for that gift. Now he can summon his own golem, being able to summon a solid wall after defending the player from almost 4,000 attacks and auto-sacrifice after protecting against 1,001 boss attacks. He would never have expected to receive something from the company that edits his videos. His gratitude reached the stars and he promised to bow in direction of the studio every day. He decided that he would exceed their expectations to continue receiving support. He thought he might be able to defeat the boss crocodile that lives in that swamp all by himself. And to increase the difficulty, he would do it as quickly as possible. It's not enough for him to just be better than other players. But before putting that into practice, he needs to finish clearing the lizardman's nest. The golem is already working hard. There are only 3 creatures left to completely clear that place. His guardian is also very engaged. Thanks to the secret quests, our protagonist's stats increase very quickly and he is brutally strong for a mage. Now that the weaker enemies no longer focus on him, he can stand still and hit them from a safe distance, sending a fireball toward a lizardman that was 100 meters away, hitting the creature with great precision. After clearing that place, he is confident that defeating the boss crocodile won't be a difficult task. With his work completed, his mastery with fireballs had increased. It took him less than 8 hours to do everything. Gold has a complaint to share saying that the rude dog kept stealing his kills. Those two fighting seemed like 2 little kids and the protagonist's necklace started reacting. It was pointing toward a specific direction. While the creatures kept arguing, the boy looked toward this new direction. There was an altar nearby and on it, a mysterious object. It didn't take long for the boy and his team to head in that direction. The system saw a mysterious egg. It couldn't gather much information, only reporting that it was a dragon egg and that the power of the Nameless God is needed to hatch it. A dragon egg is truly an impressive item. The boy even thought it might be a new type of divine beast. Completing this task became a priority. Since the reward is a legendary card, he told his companion that they would return to Wigger City. About to cross the bridge, the people spying on our protagonist are waiting for him. Their weapons are already prepared to reach him. That assassin knows that players eventually have to return to the city. And to get to Wigger, he necessarily needs to pass through this route. Looking more closely at that group, he identified a guardian and a divine beast. Now he understands why the bounty is set at 100,000 coins. His bow is a legendary item. Once it hits the target, subsequent attacks will chase it. He sighed calmly so his hands wouldn't tremble, releasing the arrow toward his target, believing he would finish everything very quickly. Lucky sensed the approaching attack. As he moved, the guardian prepared the shield for defense, managing to prevent his master from being hit. Our protagonist knows exactly what's happening now. A normal player would have panicked as not knowing where the attack came from is truly concerning, but the boy already knew the assassin would approach him. He left an opening on purpose so that a surprise attack would happen, and he ordered Gold to advance. He's sure he is being underestimated by his attacker because they are inside the swamp, but is going to show that the terrain is not an obstacle to using all these skills. The archer became frustrated, realizing his target was very well prepared. He needs to restart his approach without losing his composure. The slowness caused by the swamp will prevent his target from approaching him effectively. The distance between them is approximately 120 meters. He won't be able to attack. While aiming his bow, the assassin saw